Okay. First order of business is any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Public comment on any issues not on tonight's agenda? Yes. Well, you are prepared.
Yeah.
You got all this stuff on your notes.
Let's see. Kate Coffey, Manso Street. So at the March 26th Planning Commission and the April 6th City Council, I asked to stop administrative reviews of projects by the Director of City Planning. And I am asking again for that now on the following bases. We have been told by the planning director and the city manager in her memo that there was one mistake at 12 Franklin Street, and that was the position of the driveway. At last Thursday's design review meeting or development review, Jared Miller said that there were additional mistakes that he noted, including more impervious cover, extension of the driveway back farther than it was on the plans. There's also an asphalt pad outside a side door that is not the same mistake as the driveway. At the meeting on the 16th, so last Thursday night.
That's the DRB meeting.
Yeah, the DRB meeting. There was a review of, I think it's, gosh, I don't know what the names are now, 5 through 17 Gabe's Way, where the planning director could not answer why the driveway was allowed to be located where it was in the setback.
Excuse me, Kate. 5 to 17, that we a lot of times refer to 8X Franklin Street, is that right?
Yes, correct. Yes, it changes names. There's also the direction of the Planning Commission to remove character of the area from the Winooski regs across the board, where in fact to align with state statutes, where it actually only applies for affordable housing projects. And so those are the reasons why I am requesting to stop the administrative reviews by the planning director. I also, based on the number of errors or mistakes at 12 Franklin, and I was up earlier on my way down here and took some measurements and found what I feel are additional mistakes, that there should be a third-party review of 12 Franklin, as well as, is it 5 to 17, sometimes known as 8X Franklin, and let's see, 50 Park Street, sometimes known as 255 La Fountain or the Armory Project. And the common denominator on that is that Greg Dixon of Krebs and Lansing prepared the plans, the civil site plans for 12 Franklin, 8X Franklin, and the Armory project. And I think that it's far too risky to keep going when there are known errors in a built, in something that's already built. I don't have a lot of faith, unfortunately, that the city is taking this seriously.
So your request is to remove administrative approval for everything? I mean, single-family development as well, or are you talking just like PUDs or bigger projects?
The ones that are in, let me see what the note is. 514E that you will be addressing later,
Right. Okay,
and the third-party review.
great. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Any other public comment, things not on tonight's agenda? You see we have a little bit of flexibility, so if you want to address the planning commission, feel free. Anyone online, Revy? No. Okay, great. Then we will,
One person raised their hand.
okay. Where is it? Oh,
Hi. Can I type this in?
Trevor?
Because I'm in a
you want to
public
move up to the
place.
table or over there or? Okay. I'm sorry.
Is there any way that I can type my questions in?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a chat, there should be a
yeah, you
chat
can
box.
put your questions in the chat function.
Okay, let me try that because I'm in a public restaurant trying to connect here. I'm traveling on vacation. Hold on, please.
Sure.
Well, I think that's going to be a little difficult. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yeah.
Okay. I guess my questions was, in talking about the development that's going in at 8 Franklin, there's a proposal to make that a private road. And when I'm reading in some of the language of what you're trying to do with working on the building typologies, you're working on trying to have the houses face the road, which is really great because that makes it to be a more friendly neighborhood. But if that Gates Way becomes the private road, then that particular unit would be facing the same way. And so what is the criteria of something being a private road versus just being a driveway for that particular building? Can somebody there answer that, or?
You have an answer for that, Remy? A private road versus a driveway?
Yeah, it's a little strange. So for E911 purposes, we decided to, like me and code enforcement decided to address that particular property in accordance to a private driveway. So for E911, code enforcement and I have been working together to try and figure out how do we address new structures without having impacts on neighboring properties. In this particular case, if we were to readdress and correct per current E911 standards, that particular lot of 8X Franklin, which was historically 8.5 Franklin that over time became 8X Franklin in our system, it would require readdressing 2 other properties. So in order to circumvent impacts on neighboring properties, we decided to address it according to the driveway. How the driveway is named is different from the standards that's in the public works specifications for driveways. That's why I say it's a strange question. So with the roadway itself, Public Works and I have been talking about, so what are our specifications for this roadway? What is the flexibility of specifications for private roadways? At what point do we look at a roadway and say, okay, this is allowable, but we'll never accept it as a public roadway? And in this particular instance, under a hypothetical that it could become a through road, what are the aspects that we need to keep in mind for this roadway as it goes forward? So those conversations are still ongoing and still evolving, that we're working with the applicant to resolve before any construction happens.
So it seems that, yeah, just by reason of not wanting to renumber houses, this is being able to go through, which could cause continuous grievous harm. And I think what should have been looked at is whether this private road, which is getting, because it's a private road, is having, the setback is different for how close this is going to be to 10 Franklin. So I think this is just compounding some of the issues that are going on there. When I read section 5.4, it also says, it spells out that a defined interest must be provided on a street, specifically a public street if the property fronts a public street, and a private street if the property fronts a private street. These draft regulations include a waiver provision to allow design flexibility for properties within site limitations. So it just seems to me that this particular piece in your section that you're trying to amend is going to allow that unit to be facing sideways again with all the same issues that 12 Franklin has. And the reason that they would be being allowed to do that is because it is being designated a private street when it's one building, one unit. And that I would respectfully ask that you look at that, because it seems to be a loophole for this developer to put in this building at the same height level that everything else is going in, which was the most of the concerns from the neighborhood was the height of this building. Second question, when I read the standards for heights in all of the residential zones, they're 35 feet. When I read the blueprints for this particular development house or fourplex that's going in, it's 39 feet. How did that get passed at 39 feet?
You want to answer or want me to?
Sure. So how we measure height is based on the average finished grade to the average of the midpoint in the eaves for pitched roofs. So let me pull that up in Article 9 for reference. It's a nice little graphic. And it is right. Oh. There you go.
I'm not, oh, I guess she's on Zoom so she can see it.
Yeah, well, for your benefit as well. So this is how we measure height, that it's from the mean ground level, average finished grade to average between the eave and the peak. So that's how that peak could be 38, 39 feet, but the average of the roof would be 34, 35 feet.
I know this is something the typology consultants noted
Yep.
that, I mean, this might be too high for a
Yep.
residential district. So is
Yeah.
that going to be in the typologies discussion today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
And can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm traveling, so it's hard for me to be sort of organized.
No, that's okay. And I'm sorry, what was your first name again? I missed it.
I'm sorry, and I guess that didn't show up either, so I'm not even on my computer. This is Michelle Wheeler at 850 Neon Street. Thank you.
Michelle.
Oh, Michelle,
Yeah.
okay. I see RWHEE on the screen. That's why I was wondering.
Okay, so when I see section 5.4 in what I believe is your revision, so it's 5.4, is this going to be talked about later?
Yes.
So I have in the, okay, I think everything else comes with all the memos from today's meeting. So,
Okay. All right, thanks, Michelle.
okay.
Abby, you had another question?
Yeah. Revi, do we have a definition for a private driveway versus a private roadway?
In zoning, no. In the public works specs, there are different specifications for private driveways and private roadways, which is also interesting based on the conversations with them. That private driveways in the public works specs specify a 64-foot right-of-way, but the public works department has been pretty flexible with that right-of-way width and accommodating and worked with applicants on that.
And don't we reference the public works specs when we talk about driveways and stuff? Right?
Yes.
Okay.
But it sounds like in zoning, we only have a definition for driveway, not roadway, or neither.
Let me triple check. Yeah, I don't see one for driveway. And I don't see one for, I don't see one for roadway either.
So you don't have a lot of guidance on either.
Yeah, it's again, it's just like this weird bifurcation where, with E911, any roadway, whether it's a driveway, whether it's a roadway, if it serves three structures, it could be considered a roadway for E911 purposes. It doesn't necessarily need to be a street, but just for naming purposes, in order for emergency response to find that structure, they would recommend naming a driveway. I mean, in past experiences, I've had to address driveways that are 10 foot wide or 12 feet wide and into a road that, for E911 purposes, even though it was in our driveway specs and met driveway specs. So in a very similar situation here, it's looking at roadways in terms of emergency response and whether emergency response can locate a structure, and then looking at our public works specs separately and determining separately whether the roadway is a driveway or a street, and regardless of whether it has a name or not.
I think it's a good point, because I think we need to look at a driveway or road, whatever. A road that accesses a certain number of units. In a lot of communities, it's 3 or more.
Yeah.
It's got to be built to public roads specifications, even if it's a private road. So I think we need to address that, like yesterday. So, anyway.
Thank you.
Great. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to public hearing on amendments to the Unified Land Use and Development Regulations, and I'd be looking for a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll move to
Motion
open
by
the
Matt.
public hearing, yeah.
Abby seconds. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, public hearing is open. I want to start by just letting folks know that, obviously over the last several weeks, months, whatever, there's been a lot of discussion about the regulations and some of the things that have gone on, especially, well, the elephant in the room is 12 Franklin Street. We as a planning commission are well aware of that. We have been talking about it and what we can do to ensure that something like that doesn't happen again. And that's some of the things that we're going to be discussing today, is how we've addressed that. I know it's frustrating because it takes time to get through the process. We have to discuss it, come to an agreement, warn a public hearing. After the public hearing, it goes to the city council, who has to warn a public hearing. And so there's a process involved, and it takes time to get through it. So we've heard all of the comments, we read all the comments, we appreciate them, but I just want to let everyone know that we as a planning commission, including me to a point, right, Abby's smiling over there. But anyway, are aware of it, and we are working to fix it to our best ability. So I hope you can bear with us, and as we go through each of these changes tonight, if you have any comments, feel free to raise your hand, come up to the table, introduce yourself, and give us your comments, okay? So, anything you want to say, Thomas, Mr. Mayor?
I will just reiterate that point because I think it's very important what you said, Mike. I know that there's a lot of frustration in the community and people don't think that the city is working on this. However, this is the process. Sometimes government is slow. For a lot of reasons, actually, it should be slow, but this is the difficulty here is you need the time to put the work into fixing the errors that we saw that led to what so many people are concerned about. But you also have to try to think of everything else that comes with it. So personally, I don't want you doing that work very quickly. I want you being very deliberate and taking your time. That said, you've been talking about this building since it started going up. So it's not like it hasn't been something that's been on your minds or something you've been aware of. And you've taken the actions, I think, very quickly. I will highlight as well for the public, this meeting doesn't usually start at 5:30. All of these people across from me who are on the Planning Commission all have other jobs or activities that they have to do, so they have to change things up a little bit in order to make this happen at 5:30. But they wanted to do that because they knew that this was so important and they wanted to give it the time that it needed. So I just thank you for making that change. I know that it's not easy when this is essentially a volunteer position that carries a lot of weight, and you've been really trying to meet the moment. So with that, open up your public hearing.
Thank you. So, why don't we do this? Because we've got a bunch of sections that we're going through. Why don't we take them one at a time? So, Reverend, do you want to do the introduction to the changes and whatnot?
Yeah.
We'll have a discussion with the Planning Commission, then open it up to folks on the floor.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, huh?
Yeah. I'm just gonna share the packet because that has a nice little outline at the top. So the items under discussion are the allowances for gentle infill in existing structures in the C1 zoning district, revisions to accessory dwelling unit allowances, signage allowances in the public district, required design elements for all projects, including blank wall length and width, outdoor lighting, screening requirements, and building orientation requirements, and then edits to the administrative review allowances for priority housing projects. So just going through the memo step by step, the gentle infill allowances for the C1 zoning district would allow for all types of residential uses to be allowed in the C1 district. Currently, they're not allowed in residential uses that are single unit, 2 unit, 3 unit, and 4 unit are not allowed in the C1 district right now. So this would allow for more flexibility with the usage of buildings in the C1 district. With accessory dwelling unit allowances.
We should pause, right?
I'm sorry?
We'll pause before we talk about ADUs. Do you want to
Yes, yeah, we're going to go one at a time.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want me to just pause right now?
Yeah.
And then flip
Yeah,
through it?
I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
good call.
Good thing you're paying attention, Abby. Okay, so we're talking about the changes to the C1 zone,
Yes.
allowing residential uses in that zone. So folks know, C1 is the central business district,
Yes.
which is essentially where we're sitting right now.
Across the street.
Across the street, and it goes up East Allen Street
Yep.
a ways.
Yep.
But it does not include the downtown core, which is from, correct me if I'm wrong, you've got the map.
Here, Mike.
You know,
East of Main
shouldn't I know,
Street.
shouldn't I know that where the
18
boundaries
years
are?
ago.
Yeah, east of Main Street, south of East Allen, and then west of Casavan.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it moved over a little bit. Okay, so it's basically where the downtown redevelopment was. So anyway, okay. So, comments from the Planning Commission, any? I know we've hashed this through quite a bit. Any comments from the folks in the public about this change to the C1, allowing residential uses? Again, in our discussions, actually, I brought it up. I own a property across the street in the C1 district, and I have a duplex. My office is one side, the other side is a residence. That whole block, there are 3 or 4, 5 maybe, properties that are either single-family or up to 3-unit residences that wasn't allowed as a permitted use. And I just suggested, let's allow that because, one, the commercial office market is awful, and it gives flexibility to folks to do residential uses if they, drop a commercial use. That was the impetus for bringing this up, so. Doug, do you want to say something? You're looking at me like, it was you.
What limits are there on the size of?
Doug, I'm sorry, I have to, if you're gonna make a comment,
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to come up to the microphone and state your name, please.
I have 2 comments.
Yeah.
actually. First comment
And
is
it's Doug Johnson.
Doug Johnson.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Tell where I live.
Resident, yeah.
No, you don't
Or
have
like,
to.
you can say you're
16
resident.
Pleasant Street.
Okay,
in Winooski.
great.
The first comment is about the pace of change, right, in the, thank you. The pace of change in the zoning structure, right? And I think the most deliberate pace is the best. The problem is that developers want speed. And they often want speed because they don't want the change and what that might do to limit or to, in some cases, encourage development. But they see an opening, they want to move fast. I think the city's procedure should be, when those changes are in train, that no properties that are controversial should be permitted, frankly. Because that's why we got the 12 Franklin Street property. It's kind of caught in a mix of what is allowed and what isn't allowed, and people don't know what's going on, and so on. So I think a moratorium on administrative approval that doesn't go through the same kind of, as I understand it anyway, maybe I'm wrong, the same kind of public process as one that brings properties to people's attention should not take place, frankly.
I think one of the problems is, and the folks at that table over there can correct me if I'm wrong, but my recollection is that you've got these zoning ordinances, you introduce new zoning ordinances, and a developer can apply under the existing regulations on the date that they make their application. Is it either the proposed or the existing? Am I wrong about this, Rebbe? You're squinting your eyes.
So it's when city council warns a hearing. So if it's proposed, it's from the time that city council has warned that public hearing to review those changes.
But can the developer at that point come in under either the existing or the proposed?
Yes.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
and that's state
If I'm,
law.
yeah, if I'm
There's
not
something
mistaken.
fundamentally wrong with the situation that produced the 2 developments on either side of 10 Franklin. And the people who own that property have been screwed, right? They've been squeezed. And it's bad enough that they're squeezed on one side, but now they're going to potentially be squeezed on the other side. And I think that's just absolutely fundamentally unfair. And I think people in government should be aware of that sort of thing, and they should be able to pause the process until a reasonable process can take place.
And I agree with you, but I don't believe we can't pause put a moratorium, a planning commission can't put a moratorium.
No, I'm not
on
saying,
what-
I don't know, I don't know what a just process is.
Right, right.
Right? But I think justice was not done by the structure that we're operating in.
Agree. Matt,
So
you
I'm
wanna throw
actually,
something?
I'm somewhat new on the planning commission, but I have, obviously, my time on here, I've seen a very deliberative process. And I think the housing commission, even before any of this was taken up, had been discussing a lot of these as like reprioritizing, infill development and increased density in terms of like, this is sort of what our city needs is, we have, again, I work at the school district and we have homeless students there, right? And I think there had been a long deliberative process as these regulations were in the process of getting developed. But now, as they are being implemented, I'm sure it does feel sudden. But I do see that there was a long process that led us to this place and these priorities and these codes.
But I don't know what the answer is either to your question. Be nice if someone could just say, stop, cease, desist until we get our stuff together.
Well,
So,
I mean, it would seem to me that you operate under one set of regulations until a new set of regulations are approved. And you try to think through the implications of the new set that you're developing. Now, I haven't lived in Winooski for a huge amount of time, but I've served on a number of different commissions and so on. And when I was serving on the oversight committee for the form-based code, I thought, and I still think, that Winooski has very, very special, a very special situation. It's 1.25 roughly square miles of territory, right? And it's almost all of it functionally is developed. So the only way you can grow is to grow up, right? And so, having just recently moved to the community, I was all in to the notion that the major corridors in and out ought to be the site, the non-residential site for development, whether it was to put in taller buildings or some other kinds of activities, whatever it might be. Now I'm on the Local Resources Advisory Board, and suddenly I find that the major priority of that board is historic preservation. Right? And I never realized until I got on that board that the bulk of the historical properties in town, probably half of them or more, are in those corridors. And I had a background in historic preservation before I moved here. Right? And it didn't compute.
Yeah.
Right? So
so let me ask you, because we
yes,
we
I
are
know,
supposed to
I know,
move
I
on, but
hadn't meant to say anything about any of this.
that's okay, that's okay.
No.
But you had 2 points you were gonna
Yeah,
make.
the second point was just to say, is there any limit on the height of the residential buildings in the new
Yeah, the height is 35.
Are they
Height
6
is-
stories, are they 4 stories?
The height in the
What-
residential
what does
zones
it mean?
is 35 feet,
35 feet,
35 feet.
in
And-
that area, the commercial area.
Oh, in the
no.
commercial, no, there's different, it's, what is it, 60 feet in the central, in the
Table.
downtown core?
On the table.
There you go. Look at the table, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, sorry, the text is a little too fine. But 35 feet in the residential and then 60 feet in the C1.
60 feet in the general commercial.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think in a town with uneven topography, averaging the height of the building is not a satisfactory solution for the people that are on the downslope side of the property.
And I think when we get the building topography discussion that follows this, there's gonna be some discussion about
I'm
that.
sorry. for taking this.
No, that's okay, that's okay. So, in terms of the C1 district, any other comments?
There's one online, but, yeah. Do you want me to,
Yeah.
okay.
Hi, it's Michelle again.
Hi, Michelle.
So, when I'm looking at the land use table, I see that others, C1 districts can have 60 living units per acre. That's how I'm reading it. How do you define a living unit? Is that any unit, or is it that number of bedrooms?
15 units per acre.
So,
You're looking at the use table?
yeah, it's on
just
the,
like here, number
the
3,
Oh,
fine
oh,
print.
your notes,
Third footnote.
Third note.
60 units per acre.
What I was thinking was C2 area can have 30 units per acre, C1 can have 60 living units per acre.
Yeah.
But anything that fronts East Allen or Main Street, there's no limit on the number of living units. But I was wondering, what determines the living unit per acre? Is that number of bedrooms, or is that
No,
like
it-
number of apartments?
It's a number of apartments, if you will, dwelling units.
Dwelling units, okay. So, given that there's this housing crisis, and given that that there's the ability to have 30 units per acre or 60 units per acre in these districts, is there any way that there can be some sort of city mandate or code that whenever a development is made in any of these areas, that a certain percentage be required to be 3 bedrooms or more? This would also help. We could be helping the shortage of affordable larger housing if everything that goes in has a larger unit to be in it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Instead of putting it all in one place or whatever, if all of this could be spread around and it could be mandated. When I look at, right now, there's the properties for sale on East Allen are the 5 houses next to CCB.
Yeah.
And they are selling it with a proposal that looks like this huge upscale type of apartment type building. It looks pretty upscale. And if that could be made with as many living units as possible, because it's on East Allen, why couldn't it be? And I know that that's not in development yet, it hasn't even been sold. But what I'm saying is, when you're looking to plan for the future, why can't we put some kind of limit on that? When a developer makes something that they have to put in 5% or 10% of those units be 3 bedroom? Is there something that prohibits us from doing that in the city of Winooski?
I mean, we've had this discussion because the priority of the city council and what we've been dealing with is to try to incentivize developers to put in 3+ bedroom units and affordable. And so there's incentives for them to do that, but it's a matter of the developer taking advantage of that.
There's
So
no mandate.
I don't think we can mandate that they have to put in, 3 bedroom units. We've got we've been talking about inclusionary zoning, which is for affordable housing.
I think there's something like that in effect in Burlington, though, that they have to have.
It's a free market.
Yeah,
You know?
I'm not sure there is, but,
Yeah.
we have had that discussion.
If you find language, pass it along.
Yeah, if you find some language,
That's
Michelle,
all, yeah.
pass it along to us. We'll look at it.
Well, I just feel like the language is in the zoning itself, that you don't approve a development unless it has some 3 bedroom units in it. I mean, if it's a certain size, obviously if it's not a duplex or a triplex, you can't mandate that. But if they're putting in something larger, well, why can't that be within our zoning requirements? It certainly fits within the plan, which I don't remember, your Winooski master plan. So if it
So-
fits within the master plan, why can't that fit within how you permit? I
So-
don't understand what prevents you from not.
I'm not, Yeah, I'm not 100% sure that we can do it. However, you brought it up, so I'm going to ask Revy to look into that for us, if you can do that.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you. I mean, feel like we could be chipping away at this, you know, in all aspects by, you know, requiring, I don't think we need more apartments on West Allen Street that are all studios and one bedrooms and that are for, you know, young professional couples. So
Okay.
if there's no limit on the amounts that can go in those sites, ready by your statutes, then I feel like there should be, some sort of, even a small minimum of units there that are made into 3 bedrooms. I understand developers don't do it because it's not as profitable for them, but I just feel like we have community members coming in, talking about how everybody has to share the burden. Well, then maybe the developers there have to share the burden as well, if they want to come to our city and put these units in and make a lot of money.
Okay.
That's all about the land use table. Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, so,
And move on, I think.
yeah, we'll move on. Everyone's all set with this one. So, Revy, the next one is, where am I?
ADU.
It's the ADUs?
Yeah, so we can talk about ADUs. So with the ADU allowances in the current zoning, it specifically is for properties in the residential districts. However, this is a statutory allowance for all single unit dwellings. So in order to better align our regulations with statute, we've been looking at language to make sure that those properties that are in the C1 district and Gateway district that are single unit dwellings, that they have that statutory right. So the language now matches state statute.
And I should, ADU, if folks don't know, accessory dwelling units. Okay, any comments from the planning commission about this section, the changes? Any comments from the public?
Comment from Michelle.
Yeah. Okay, Michelle, you're back on. Maybe? Michelle, you there?
Hi, I'm so sorry. Was there something that we were striking out some language of what an accessory, are you in section 5.1 right now?
Yes.
Okay. What I saw in section 5.1A is that you struck out the whole section A, and so now there's no definition at all of what an accessory or what an ADU is. And I'm just wondering why you would take out the part where it says an ADU is a distinct unit located within or pertinent to a single unit dwelling or pertinent to a multi-unit dwelling.
I think because we put it in the definitions.
Can I finish?
I'm
Because it
sorry,
says
yeah, I thought you were done.
is clearly subordinate to the existing dwelling, which it would have to be because it's only a maximum of 900 square feet or 30%. But the key point here is that it has facilities and provisions for independent living, including sleeping, food preparation, and sanitation. If you take that wordage out, people could put in little boxes that don't have that, which would actually be habitable living units. So I'm just wondering why you're taking out that definition. That doesn't seem to be at odds with anything.
So, Michelle, it was not really taken out, it was moved to
There was
definitions.
a redundancy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's
I
in-
guess the only part that showed up was this section in your paperwork, so.
Yeah.
So there is a definition somewhere else then?
If you can see the screen that Revy has up, can you see that?
No, I have to, hold on, I have to click onto that. Okay, yes.
All right. That definition is what was basically what was stricken out.
Okay, so where is this new one now?
What section is
This
this?
is Article 9. So
Article
all our
9.
definitions.
Okay. All right, so just as long as that definition is in there, because I think it's really, really important to understand that an ADU actually makes for a person to be able to live in it and have all the facilities that are needed to do that.
Yep.
So I was thinking about that, I didn't see where it was put. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next.
What is next?
Sorry, Ravi,
Yes.
can you go back to the definition?
Sure.
So you struck out an owner-occupied, single-unit dwelling?
Yep. So in our current regulations, if I go back to 5.1, for ADUs to duplexes, triplexes, those ADUs don't have to be, the property doesn't have to be owner occupied.
It goes through the conditional use process if it's
Yes,
not?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We all set with ADUs? So are we going to blank walls next? What are we going to?
Sure, we can talk about blank walls. So with the blank walls,
What's next?
go to the graphics in the memo.
Or signage, I think is next, Mike.
So,
Signage, I think.
Signage is next.
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
okay,
is
we can
that?
talk about signage, sure.
Oh, I was going.
So with signage,
going by
there, right now, there is no allowance for signage in the public district. Community member reached out to me and asked about signage in the public district, for their business, and, since we don't have any signage allowances, I wasn't able to permit any signage for that property. But now with these, guidance and standards, there are now signage allowances for parks. And for the, and for the business within our parks that we allow. So those standards are, under section 4.14.
414. 414. So any comments from planning commission? Any public comments?
I have one question.
Yeah,
This is from the
sure.
commission, though. So it says will.
You need to get a mic.
It says we will be revisiting signs when the city looks to update signage comprehensively. Is there a schedule for that at all?
Not at the moment. Talked to Paul Sarn about this, and it's something that he's thought about, but he hasn't really had a definite concrete plan about this.
Okay,
You good?
anything else? Yeah, Bryn, come and join us, please.
The deputy mayor mic.
I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Brenda Oakley, Franklin Street. Just a clarifying question. Does this relate to the public request for potential grant funding for signage?
No.
Okay. It's very vague what this is in relation to, about the lack of signage allowances.
So there aren't, so the public district are Landry Park, Myers Pool, Gilbrook. For those properties that are located in our public district, there are currently no standards for signage. So if we wanted to update our signs, if we wanted to put wayfinding, I wouldn't be allowed to permit them because we have no allowances for signage for those properties. So these draft regulations establish standards for signs in the public district in order to allow for any sign modifications, any new signage, any wayfinding signage for those parks.
How did the wayfinding signage go in recently?
I don't know.
Were those, should it have been permitted and it wasn't permitted, or?
I mean, typically with wayfinding, it really depends. Wayfinding is always a weird one because it's, if it provides that public benefit, then sometimes it doesn't necessarily require permitting, but in certain cases it does. I'm not familiar with which new wayfinding signs that you're referencing.
They're the nice blue ones
Oh, okay.
that have gone in within the last 5 years.
Okay. Then I'm not sure. either way, we now have standards, so if we wanted to update those wayfinding signs at any point, then we would have a way to review them.
Okay, so
Yeah,
follow-
I don't have a
that's fine.
answer.
I'll move on to a different question.
Okay.
Would these proposed changes allow for a potential welcome to Winooski sign?
Where?
In a public district.
In a public
But there's-
district.
But I don't think there's any public districts right on the main,
On the entry points?
on the entry points, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this doesn't pertain to the entry points. And within the right-of-way, that's a whole other category of signage. Yeah, zoning doesn't cover signs within the right-of-way, because those are for a public safety purpose. So all of like speed limit signs, any sort of MUTCD required signage, it's completely outside of zoning and can't really be regulated by me because it serves that public purpose.
Okay, great. Thank you for adding some clarification.
Deputy Mayor, don't we have some, we used to have some welcome to Winooski signs. Do we still have them? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I think we do, I don't know. Okay, oh, yes.
Hi, Brian Wade. Just as a point of clarification, are you referring to 414F for residential signs?
No, 414J.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, because I was just wondering what the rationale for that is, if that was being amended. It didn't look like it was.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just for public, areas zone public. Okay, then let's move on to blank walls.
Okay, blank walls. So to address certain concerns about the blank walls on facades, the recommendation and the regulations is to have our regulations match what we have in our gateways for detached frontage and townhouses. So in our form-based code for those particular regulating plan areas, there's a 20-foot limit for blank walls. And in this case, we would have pull it down, a 15-foot limit for length and height for blank walls in the residential districts, and then a 20-foot limit for the C1 district. Now, in this draft, this would cover both length and width. A blank wall is a 1 foot square. So you would not be allowed to have a blank wall that exceeds 15 feet in length and in height. So that is what is in front of you, and then there's also definitions to provide more information about what exactly a blank wall is.
So,
Okay, Sarah.
yeah, first of all, I apologize to my commissioners. I wasn't at the last meeting, and I've had a heavy load lately, and to you, Ravi. But I need to, I would like to make suggestions that we change the language to the blank wall definition pretty radically. So I will read it out, but I'm also just going to give you guys a couple copies. I'm sorry to do this to you, but I think you better get it. Oh.
Thanks.
You want one, Mike?
Yeah.
Trevor? Okay, I'm probably going to be a little nervous reading this, so let it go here. Actually, Mike, do you mind reading just what's written, our own?
Yes.
Yes, that. Do you mind reading that out loud? And then we
So
have-
existing, I'm gonna read it right from here.
Yeah.
Blank wall, a portion of the exterior facade of a building visible from a street, publicly accessible open space areas, including but not limited to public parks, and shared common open space areas located on a portion of a lot, including but not limited to courtyards and plazas, that does not include substantial material change, windows, doors, building modulations, architectural detailing, or any other articulation greater than 12 inches in both length and height. Solid paint of a single color is not considered a substantial material change, but murals may be considered a substantial material change. Green walls are considered a substantial material change.
Okay, thank you. So my suggestions, and this is a bit long, so just bear with me. So I'm suggesting the following rewrite for the time being if we wish to move this into onto City Council this evening. I feel the second half of the last sentence, as written in the draft, is too weak to ensure that we fix the blank wall problem. So this is my proposed language. I'm sure there'll be some shifts in it if anybody's willing to go with it. Okay, blank wall. This is what a blank wall is. A portion of an exterior facade of a building visible from the street, a publicly accessible open space area, included but not limited to public parks and/or shared common open space areas, located on the portion of a lot, including but not limited to courtyards and plazas, that is uninterrupted by windows, window openings, doors, or other architectural features. For maximum length and height requirements on the blank walls within each zone, see section 2.5 on the dimensional requirement table. Only exterior windows, and this is the part that's really different, only exterior window sills, vertical and head jambs on windows, thresholds, vertical and head jambs on porches, on doors that abut the windows and the doors can be counted towards blank wall reduction. So what I'm trying to head to is if we were going to do a triage on the blank wall definition, we know that with windows and doors, we're guaranteed a certain, there's a certain guarantee that those are actually going to do what we want them to do. To address the second half of the last sentence, see my comments below, I wrote that to myself. All the definitions in our form-based, all these definitions may be in our form-based code definitions, but the Planning Commission have not gone over them to see if they align with the suggested draft blank wall definition. Building modulations. Do we have a definition for this? If so, let's include it where we can it be found or write it in the blank wall definition itself. Architectural detailing, ditto. Any other articulations greater than 12 inches in both length and height. For example, could you go to Home Depot, buy a sheet of 4x8 plywood, cut it in half, screw it to the exterior of the building, and that will qualify for blank wall reduction? I guess I don't know what this means. So if included, there should be a definition which is understandable to all. Solid paint of single color is not considered a substantial material change. How this is written, 2 different color paints would qualify for blank wall reduction. Murals. Murals may be considered a substantial material change. I thought that we'd discussed this and concluded the murals were too subjective, thus decided not to allow them towards blank wall reduction. I can restate arguments as I recall them if necessary. Green wall and considerations, a substantial change, material change. I'll let others speak to that.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the Planning Commission about Sarah's proposal?
I will just say, it doesn't look like it made it in the packet, but the typology consultants looked through these and made recommendations. And for the blank wall proposal, they said anything other than doors and windows is just lipstick on a pig. So that's the artwork, that's the vines, being able to grow vines, change the color of the paint, building undulations, that kind of stuff. It's just lipstick on a pig. So I do think that we should really consider blank wall to only be broken up by doors and windows to meet those guidelines, which I think is
That's what I'm trying to say.
what Sarah's put
And I'm
together.
saying that you could do sills and jambs that could go towards the blank wall reduction.
Right,
Right.
because they're part of the window or
Yeah.
door, yeah.
And it's a little bit of a, because we're doing this in triage fashion, you know, we may go back and take some of those elements in the second half of the last sentence and rework those. But I just don't know what they are, honestly. And you guys can argue with me, it's fine, if you understand
No,
the second half of it.
I agree with you. I was thinking the same thing.
Okay.
But the other thing I was thinking is in the residential zones, why do we have 15 feet? I think it should be shorter than that. And it should be windows and doors because, I mean, I just think of a residential building, a single-family home, whatever. You're gonna have we're requiring a door on the street side, right? And you walk into a unit, and there's probably gonna be a room or something on either side, or at least one side, that's gonna have a window, whether it's a half bathroom or you walk into the kitchen there or whatever. I'm just thinking the residential zone, because we're really talking about residential buildings in those zones, to bring it down. I don't know if 5 feet is too small, but I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Rev, you had done a review of other blank wall policies. Did you see any going down below 15 or?
No, 15 was the shortest that I've seen.
But was that for
Yeah.
residential zones?
Yeah.
I
What
mean, we
was
don't
the-
have to follow what other people do.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know?
No, we don't.
So,
Did you see, was there like what was sort of the average, the most common blank wall depth?
So let me go back to the memo. So the lowest end that I saw was 15 to 20 feet. And even looking at our form-based code, the detached frontage, the townhouse style, that's supposed to appear like a residential district at the end of the day. And even that is still at 15 feet. And the other pieces that I've reviewed, 20 is very common. But yeah, nothing lower than 15.
The property that the blank wall, what people are concerned about, do we know what the size of that, the depth of that blank wall is?
When I measured it, it was 20 across, more than 20 vertical.
So there's 20 across, I happen to have a picture of it. So Mike, what you're saying is that you'd only have one
I'm
window.
thinking you have a door, a window, and a window.
So,
But I don't know, maybe 15, I don't know. I
15
think
feels
we
safe.
need more than just a door on the front of a building.
Right.
I guess that's my point.
yeah, because you
You
could
know?
just have a single door sitting in the middle of that, sorry, Franklin Street, the poor building, sitting in the middle of that front,
Yep.
and it would look really sad and not accomplish what we're trying to do. Right. Is that what you're saying, Mike?
Yeah.
That you're worried that won't, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But anyway, that's my thought. What thoughts of the rest of the planning commission? You think I'm full of beans, or?
Again, I've just had a very hard time visualizing this the whole way, and this is why I sort of said, can we rewrite this to make
Do you
it
want
sort
to move
of,
your chair
this is what,
so that you can get the mic?
Trevor?
Maybe we should switch. Yeah. I'm Trevor I thought he was like an alternate I hadn't met yet or something. Okay, it's a good seat. I would just hesitate to go below, like, lower than the minimum that Revy found in his research for these numbers. Maybe we could do some sort of experiment, but not with like an actual building, just like draw it out or something like that to see if sub 15 feet makes sense for a blank wall. But you said that, or the notes here say that like 20 by 20 is the standard lowest that you saw.
Yeah.
In some cases 15.
Mhm.
So I see what you're saying, more better, more blank space, not better, but it could get too packed pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I guess that's my whole thing is, if we use 20 Franklin Street and it's 20 feet wide, right? You put a door in the middle, that's all you need.
yeah,
But-
that covers the regulation.
That covers the
And we're saying
regulation,
that's
but-
not gonna solve the problem.
And maybe it's that it's gonna be there's gonna be a door there and windows, I don't know how you write it, but, and maybe we need to move this one off the table and give more consideration to Sarah's, unless people are in a big hurry to get this through, this blank wall thing.
That's, I mean, how does the community feel about it?
Should we open it up to the public?
Yeah. Public comments?
Yeah, please.
Yep.
Help us.
Hi, Mike Connolly, West Spring Street. I'm curious if there's any regs right now about the size of the windows that we're talking about. If you're gonna have them every 5 feet, can they be like a little 6-inch circle?
Like a porthole?
Yeah. That would also look pretty unusual, pretty weird. Not sure that the community would love to see a big wall with porthole windows.
Right, right. That's a good
Just a
point.
thought. But it would satisfy every 10 feet, you could have a porthole window.
Yeah. Good. Thanks for bringing that, because this
Yeah.
is some of the things that we don't necessarily think about, right? That's why more, Kate?
I'm wondering about a percentage of the facade, because this might be a surprise to some people, but developers, they will game the system, and they will just put the one door in there, and then you'll be back again, doing it all over, and, it's like when you see these row houses and they all have windows on the side, and then you get to the end unit and they still don't put windows on that end, and it's a quality of life for people, whether it's a rental or an owned space, to have ideally light from 2 different sides, and
So you're saying maybe a percentage
Yeah.
of the front?
of the
or the-
facade is filled with windows, doors, something that changes the plane, something that isn't just lipstick on the pig or calling it in.
Mhm. Okay. So, suggestion. Anyone else got any comments to help us out? Judy?
I'm not sure what help you out.
Then don't say it.
I'm Judy Lance, I live on Roland Court. Listening to all this discussion and, uncertainty about this and that and the other thing, there are other towns in this area that may be similar to ours. Have we looked at what they have in their regs? And that's one thing. Another thing is, doesn't Vermont League of Cities and Towns have some model ordinances available, or some links to model ordinances that we could take a look at? We don't have to reinvent the wheel necessarily. Let's look at what's out there and see what might be applicable to us and get it right,
Right.
You don't want to do, we want this done, but we don't want to hurry, because then you get all these unintended consequences,
Mhm.
and that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, Revi's obviously done some research,
Yeah.
but I don't know the extent of what's available more locally than going out on the internet and seeing what this town and another state does and so forth. VLCT might be a good resource, if Revi hasn't already checked with them.
Thank you. Yeah, Revy has looked at other ordinances, so. And that's what I'm disputing with him.
Is closing.
So our consultant also messaged in and said you could put in fenestration standards, so that way you could get the transparency requirements like we have in our form-based code.
So are they gonna bring that up in our housing topography or typology, whatever it is, typology, whatever it is?
I mean, they could probably
Unless
throw
they
it-
go to dinner,
I mean,
because
they
they're
could throw it
waiting.
into the recommendations, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that I can also look into too.
Okay.
Because we have a minimum fenestration
Yeah.
requirements in our form-based code, and that's how, and other municipalities do too.
Yeah.
So they have fenestration along with blank wall limitations, so.
So is the planning commission okay if we table this until we get more information?
Bryn
Bryn.
wants to speak.
I mean, Deputy Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
speaking as a resident, clarifying question. In absence of any proposed changes to the blank wall moving to council from tonight, that would allow any existing or any projects to continue to be built with
Yes, that,
blank walls, is that right?
Yes,
Yes.
until council warns a public hearing, the rules in place right now are the rules in place.
Okay.
now we,
So my recommendation is to take that response into consideration as to whether or not you opt to table or move forward with.
but we can change the language now if that definition that I was saying, I think it's a mess, frankly. And we could change it to something more like that before, and then you guys can also change it in council, right? You have that opportunity. So that would
Yeah.
kind of be my feeling, is to not take it out, but to try to
Fix it.
Push
fix
through.
it and get it through and get it. Because I
Okay.
think it's important. I really think it's important to do.
Yeah.
So does the mayor
Yeah.
I would recommend you.
and the deputy mayor.
Yeah, I will speak as the mayor, and I would recommend you move something forward to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can always adjust later, but
Yeah.
right now there's nothing.
And so I'm recommending maybe what I wrote,
Yep.
and it's probably not perfect, but how would people feel about moving? So, let's see, do we want to read it again?
So is it
Read this
from,
again, Mike.
is it from here?
Yeah, it's right there.
It's that. So this is what a blank wall is. A portion of the exterior facade of a building visible from a street, of publicly accessible open space areas, including but not limited to public parks, and/or shared common open space areas located on a portion of a lot, including but not limited to courtyards and plazas, that is uninterrupted by window openings, doors, door openings, or any other architectural features. For maximum length and height requirements on blank walls within each zone, see section 2.5 on the dimensional requirement table. Only exterior windowsills, vertical and head jambs on windows, threshold, vertical and head jambs, and porch roofs on doors that abut the windows and doors can be counted toward blank wall reduction.
I guess I would take out or any other architectural features because it sounds like too vague.
Okay.
But I think everything else is great. And I was doing some Googling and it seems like the most common blank wall standards is anything can't be more than 10 feet in height or 15 to 25 feet in length is the most common blank wall standard.
Okay.
So it differentiates height and length blank walls that we're just saying 15 broadly here.
Right,
But it sort of gets back to that like more nuanced.
Okay. So it says
10 feet in
wide.
height, yeah, and then depending on the district, between 15 and 25 feet in length. So just
So we could go 10 feet in width and 15 feet in height.
10 feet in height and 15 feet in width. This is just as it says, the most defensible reference pattern for blank walls.
If we're doing that, maybe, 15 might be, because you're talking 10 feet in height.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm just thinking 15 feet in height, if you have a window in the middle of the first floor, your floors are, let's call them 10 feet. Yeah, so.
Is it neither here nor there in terms of like between 15 and 10? Do you feel like it's about the same?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm not sure
I mean,
it
here's
matters a whole
one
lot,
where,
but-
Jeff, are the consultants listening to this? Do we know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They-
So maybe when we move into that, they could give us a few minutes to say, or talk about that proportion, and then we can push that into this.
Jeff wrote, apply on a story basis.
On a story basis.
Okay, on a story basis.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
can we just write it to be applied on a story basis in this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And does he talk about the dimensions?
For the vertical.
For the
Jeff,
vertical.
Jeff, you might as well talk.
Yeah. Jeff can unmute and share his feedback.
Unmute. He's in the public now.
I'm trying to hide working discussion. This is a really good discussion. The way that we approached it, and some of it is trying to be really limited, because we work in places that are boy, I'm in this, like I said, less demanding, or just more hands-off, so less interference. But I think the most important aspect is this, the call it fenestration or the windows and doors. And actually, if the door is solid, it doesn't do you much good unless it's open. But the things that people will be looking out of or into are the most important things. The other things that you all are talking about are not that important, but I guess we've limited ourselves to that. And I think 15, it might be tough to go under that, thinking there's some rooms that are larger. It's nice to have a wall. On the inside, you could put furniture on, but 15 is, you could go lower than that. 15 is kind of a sturdy number. And for the vertical, I would just say, if you go measure on a story by story basis, I think you can eliminate the vertical. Because you're talking about the whole thing, and just go deal with the width, I think.
And say, has to be on each floor, basically.
Yes, measure on each floor. And one thing that we have done, and here we're dealing with, multi-story buildings, is maybe relax it on the third floor and above or something like that. But that's, I don't want to advocate for that.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to be super restrictive, maybe on the third and fourth floor where you have them, you might loosen up. But at 15 feet, I think I just have that apply all the way up.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
So yeah, the way we have it written, it's not by story, but I would sort of say it's fine not applying it by story, because if you have a narrow house and you just say 15 feet by story, you could have just that doorway on that first story and be like, good, right? It could be like, just looking at this as an example,
Yeah.
I think it's better to just apply it on the whole facade so that you don't have like weird workarounds.
So,
So it's like using Sarah's language,
Yeah.
leaving the 15 feet, and then it's something.
yeah, okay. And going with a story for vertical? Or just the 15 feet
Just for,
vertical?
yeah,
Okay.
no blank walls,
All right.
more than 15 feet.
Everyone okay with that in the planning commission?
Yeah, I do think that there needs to be some language about the size of the thing, the architectural item that's actually breaking up the blank wall, though. Like, I don't think we
The
can move
size of the
forward
windows and doors.
leaving that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if we have a 6-inch window, then that hasn't done much. So, I don't know, just put in 2 feet by 2 feet or something, safe enough for now.
Well, it'd be a percentage of the fenestration, right?
What's that?
It'd be the percentage of the blank wall, the fenestration breaking it up, so it wouldn't be so much to the size of the opening as to the percentage of the overall wall,
Yeah.
right? Or,
Well-
I mean, that's a question.
Well, come up,
Oh, yeah.
so that we, I can talk about it.
So you're on camera and
Right, I mean, this would be a question
Back
for,
to
what's his
Jeff.
name, Michael?
Jeff.
Right, where when you're looking at, you're not looking so much at the size of the windows, of putting a limitation in that way of saying, like you were saying, an 8-inch porthole or a 2 by 2 foot, it'd be the percentage of the opening for the overall wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Right.
there would be like a percentage
Yeah.
transparency
Right.
requirement, kind of like how we have in the form-based code, so that way they're reinforcing each other.
Okay.
But we don't
Yes.
currently have a
No.
percentage of
Not
transparency
in that, not in
requirement.
the language there.
So
Do we
we
have it
would
in the
need to add
form-based
You
it.
can
code?
add it, yeah.
We can add it.
Do we have it in the form-based code? The percentage?
I'll have to double check in that district, in that
Yeah.
regulating area.
That's a good suggestion. Let's,
Yeah.
everyone okay with that if we
Yeah.
do it on a percentage basis?
Yeah, just some language to put something in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep, good.
great.
So
Okay.
I think that we should probably discuss what that is. It looks like it's common for the first floor facade to be 50% windows and doors, and the second floor 35% windows and doors. Like, I feel like we have to put it as a part of this discussion.
You're right, if we're gonna move it forward, it has to have something, language so that it can be changed by,
And maybe Jeff's back on and can talk about transparency percentage by floor.
Jeff, do you have an answer for us?
Yes, and it's a little bit criticizing myself quite a few years back. I will forward it to you all. I think the percentage of fenestration, and Ravi can check on this. I think the minimums, we might have been a little too high. Looking at, in the form-based stuff, looking at some, recently I did another look in Northfield and pulled out 3 facades, 2 in downtown and one a house outside, and measured from the photographs, so it's a little sloppy, but I found the percentages there were surprisingly low. I think for residential, 10% actually might be reasonable. And I do not remember what the minimum in the form-based code for the detached would be right now. Betting it's probably higher, but I think 10 to 15 is can be met. 20, actually, I had first thought about this. They had some trouble over in Williston with the hotel that is just got up and running recently.
So 10%, is that for windows?
In a residential,
Well, the way the form-based code is written, fenestration, pretty much windows.
So,
Clear area, if you, like on a storefront, where you might have a glass door,
yeah,
that would count. But a solid door doesn't.
okay.
so only 10% transparency required in residential districts by floor?
I think that would be reasonable, and it's debatable 10 or 15.
Current form-based code is 25 to 70% for detached frontage and townhouses.
So I would suggest we say 15%.
Does this apply are we just talking about just, the frontage facing public streets, or is this?
For the form-based code, yes, and there's some language about what's visible from the street, but there's also, I'm sure, because it seems like we've been doing it for a long time, there's some limit, so it's not just you can see it from the street, because sometimes you might be able to see all the way through the lot. I think we say walls that are more than 35 or 30 feet away from the build-to line. So some distance away from the front of the building, we say it's not really frontage. So yeah, there's a limitation. It's not just anything you can see. It's things that are somewhat on the street or close to it.
So we can keep the languages there and add the 15% for transparency,
Yeah.
meaning windows.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone okay with that, planning commission?
Let's put that in, but we also need to,
And your language?
well, no, with adding it to to the language that I wrote.
Yeah.
But then, again, it's gonna go through city council
Right.
again, so we may have to tweak this
Sure.
thing that we're sending forward to the city council.
And we can bring, if we work on it, we can bring it to the council during their,
Yeah, we could bring it to the council.
deliberations.
That's a good point.
But that feels like we're in a pretty good
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
How does that feel to
Kate?
others?
Sarah, can you flash up the Franklin Street there? I'm just wondering about the 10% and what we're seeing.
What is that
Could
number?
that be 10%?
Could that be 10%?
Yeah, and if we go back to that little diagram
See
of that location thing.
Yeah. Yeah, Ruby, that you had that.
Yeah.
Had some windows in it. So if we just look at the right side, because it's easier for me, would just one of those windows be like? I think 10% is too low, and I think that Google did a better job, and at the very minimum, it should be what is in our form-based code for the other districts as a starting point. And 10% is too low.
So calculating real quickly, on that building, if it was 20 feet wide and you assume 10-foot height per floor, then that would be 200 square feet of area, if I did that right. So
600? Is this 3 floors?
10, no,
story.
but per floor.
Oh, per floor.
Per floor, 200 square feet. So 15% then would be 30 square feet of window, which would mean that you'd have to have a 3 by 10 or 2 3 by 5 windows to meet that 30.
Whatever
Square
egress
feet.
requirement would
Yeah.
be needed, right?
Right.
So,
But that's the other thing too, they would need to be egress windows.
they would need to be egress,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think there is a definition for how big an egress window has to be.
Yeah, not in zoning, but in building.
But in building.
Yeah.
But in building,
Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know what the right number is. Folks happy with 15? Do you want to go 20, 25? Because form-based code said 25 to 70.
Yep,
I mean, we could throw in 25%.
25, yeah.
And,
Jeff's on the screen.
hi, Jeff.
I think the 25 is too high.
Okay.
Can you speak to that, Jeff? Like, why?
Having, and I want to double check and see the specific wording in the gateway plan for how that's measured. But recently, and this, in Northfield, I'll just go ahead and admit to my mistake, I think. But in Northfield, it's, and the recent codes we've written, it's very specific, it's measured on a story-by-story basis. I looked at 3 buildings, two were there downtown, mixed-use buildings, and one was a Gothic-esque house up by Northfield Falls, and they came in much lower than I was expecting, and then the sort of Carpenter Gothic house out there called Pool Mansion. They came in at first and second floor like 11%, which was really surprising, mainly velvet decoration around the windows. But 25%, to try and be more succinct, talking to Matt and Jay and Williston, they had to be a little bit creative in interpretation in the Deaf Corners Code to meet 20 on the new hotel. So a combination of doing some recent measurements, which I will forward to you. I can do that later tonight. So you can see them. It just seems, I think the 25 is too high. Not for a storefront. That's 30 is a good minimum for a storefront. But for a house or upper stories, 15 is, I think 15 is pretty reasonable.
So how about,
I really feel it's too much.
how about if we say minimum of 15 feet windows for living space, I would say except bathrooms, have to be meet egress specifications.
I do not want to go into code because I'm not a code official and I don't have any expertise in code. So,
And Jeff, you're talking about a hotel. We're talking about like residential homes, single duplexes, triplexes.
Yes, but that's still the building itself, looking at it, does not look like it has, and it's actually kind of what's a modern, it still has to shine on it from being built just in the last couple of years. But it's still, if you squint, it looks like a normal kind of a Vermont building. As far as the amount of windows, it has windows to the wall, so it's not really that different an animal. And again, the residential, the Gold Mansion in Northfield was a very surprising 11%. And I don't know the requirements for egress windows that much, that specifically, but you might want to check because they could have some weird dimension that you don't want to get stuck with.
Okay.
Like the height above the floor, something like that.
Can I ask
That-
a clarifying question about how that percentage is, that's area, right? So,
It's also, I should explain that. It's really like solid to void. So the frame of the window doesn't count. It's quite literally the stuff you can see through. And there's any, window sashes and things that are thicker than 1 inch. Though not solid, but smaller than that, you don't measure it. So looking at those buildings in photograph in Northfield, I was just drawing a line around the inside of the glass in the sashes. So, yeah, it's not,
What are we gonna do, guys?
it's not counting the whole window assembly. But
Gotcha.
sometimes a lot of that assembly is opaque.
So, what do we think? Happy with 15% based on what Jeff has said?
If we put in a range,
Yep.
and then we, when we present this, when city council takes this up, maybe we could have defined that range more regularly when we get there.
Yeah, we could do that, so say like 15 to 25%, something like that. And then we'll have a chance to
Flush it out.
flush it out a little bit.
Does that work?
Or review.
Where's our architect? The commissioner, we have an
Kate's
architect.
an architect.
So,
Kate, you are? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'd leave the range in and then do some research.
Okay.
And then you could either go
Great.
up or down.
okay.
So how about we put in 15 to 25%
Okay.
for now? Okay. Okay, everyone okay with that?
Yes.
All right. Now-
Sorry, guys.
So we were supposed to join the Housing Commission at 6:30, and it's 7:03 right now. So let me ask, on the remaining items that we have, what's that?
Yeah.
Are there issues that folks want to bring up?
Yes.
Go ahead, Abby, which one do you want to bring up first?
Housing only has a quorum until 8 o'clock, so if we go too long, we'll probably have to reschedule the joint meeting.
So we will stop this at 7:15, and then we'll do the joint meeting. And if we have to come back to this afterwards, from 8 to 8:30, we'll have to do that.
Okay.
Because of you.
I think I made the right decision.
Completely
Yes, you
fine,
did.
I just want you to know the quorum drops at 8.
Okay. Thank you.
I think the other area that's going to have a robust discussion is the administrative review.
Yeah. So before you get there, I have one thing, and I gotta find it. It's related to a section with, go through this, wherever you'll know though, walkways from the front entrance. And what I had suggested is, what you have in here is that for properties without a sidewalk frontage, a walkway to a driveway. What I had suggested is, for even properties with sidewalk frontage, and I use my house as an example, we have a walk that goes from the front steps to the driveway, and then the driveway down to the sidewalk. We don't have a walk that goes directly to the sidewalk, and I'm just thinking out loud here that in my neighborhood, on my side of the street was the sidewalk, there's, I think, 1 of 5 houses have a walkway directly to the sidewalk. And so I would say that the walkway from the front entrance, if you're on the sidewalk side, because a lot of streets have sidewalks on one side, either directly to the sidewalk or via the driveway to the sidewalk. I mean, you say that in the second sentence, I think it is, it says for properties without sidewalk frontage, go to the driveway. But I think that has to be available to even properties that have sidewalk frontage. Does that make sense?
I think if it has a sidewalk, it makes sense to go to the sidewalk, and if it doesn't have a sidewalk, they should have the option of going. We were just at a house that had one that went to the street even though it didn't have a sidewalk. Like, I think the homeowner should have the option of driveway or to the street. if they don't have a sidewalk, but I think if they have a sidewalk, we want it to connect to the sidewalk.
Well, that's what I'm saying, in my neighborhood, my house doesn't.
Yeah,
I have a sidewalk, but we go out and we go to the driveway.
yeah.
And-
You want to
and-
give them that option too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Give them both options. too.
Because
Yeah.
you look at houses that have frontage on a sidewalk, and some go to the side,
Yeah.
straight to the sidewalk, some don't. But at least if you can get from the front door to the sidewalk
Through
without.
the driveway.
Yeah,
or
either
through the-
driveway or walk.
Or
then-
directly, yeah.
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 Everyone okay with that?
Maybe, okay.
Ah, we don't care, okay.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
Great that you
we're-
thought of that.
Can you make that change?
Yep.
Okay. Abby?
Okay. Did you want to introduce the administrative review? And then we can jump into it.
I'll introduce it. I also have a suggestion from the floor myself for an edit. So as you warned it is right in front of you, that would decrease the lot coverage allowance to 65% for these types of projects that are eligible, and then have that step increase for projects that have 100% of dwelling units that meet the affordability and size requirement. I have been working on another edit of this, in which this just all goes back to site plan review. So, I didn't include this in your packet because I've just been tweaking it a bit. In this case, I think the intention of this section was to specifically target projects that are done by CHT or Habitat for Humanity.
What?
That were done by CHT or Habitat for Humanity, not necessarily by private developers. So it's a bit of an administrative burden on our part to monitor and evaluate for housing affordability. So I think that with this edit, this will it would create the allowance, require site plan review by the DRB, and then also specify that they have to be developed in partnership with a housing authority or housing trust.
So this isn't language we've reviewed,
No.
and it's not language in the packet.
No.
So it excludes private developers from putting up affordable,
It would,
Units.
they would be able to do it only if they are partnered with a housing, affordable housing provider or housing authority or other qualified housing provider.
Is-
Housing provider.
is that really appropriate? I mean, we did have in the draft that we've been working on, in terms of, it talked about confirming income and those things. If by a private owner you had to do such and such, if by, a nonprofit, then they were excluded from having to go through
Yep.
a lot of hoops. I don't know, there are private developers who put up affordable housing.
Yep.
I don't know as we need to tie them to affordable housing,
Yeah,
whatever you call it.
no. You don't
Yeah.
necessarily need to. Many of them.
Isn't that what
choose-
you're suggesting with this edit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Many of them choose to partner with an affordable housing provider, housing trust.
Yeah, and that's fine, but I think that should be their option. I don't think we should be in the business of dictating to the mayor that he's putting affordable housing as a private developer. Well, you have to get together and do it in conjunction with Revy, you know?
Is it a
That's my
concern,
thought.
Revy, that it would, if they're not partnered with like CHT, then it's on the city to sort of be determining income of the
Yeah, I mean,
residents and?
we're gonna have to do that anyways, with inclusionary and with this. With inclusionary, we have a partnership with, Winooski Housing Authority. I think Jasmine can speak more to that. With this too, we are, doing the evaluation. And we are, so it's really up to us to determine, whether this project meets the requirements or not.
Other thoughts from the commission?
Well, we haven't reviewed this or seen it, so I was gonna make comments on what we've reviewed
What
and
we've reviewed,
seen,
yeah.
so that we can forward something onto the council to review.
Yep, go for it.
So we talked, over time and extensively about reducing that 75% lot coverage down to 65%. but we have not yet discussed pulling that 100% and 75% lot coverage into the non-PUD districts. So that's concerning to me because that incentive that's currently in the PUD has DRB review, and it's got a public process. Pulling it out and putting it in our residential districts now takes out the public process, and it also isn't the intention behind us putting that in PUDs, which was getting these larger developments that we know we're getting at the Armory, and we'll get at the Barlow Street Church, and we'll get, there's several lots that will be redeveloped in the intention behind that 75% lot coverage for 100% dwellings was really meant to get family-size housing at scale. It wasn't meant to give somebody who builds a 3-bedroom affordable single-family home 75% lot coverage. That wasn't the intention. So for me, this does not feel like in line with what we've heard from the community, nor was it the intention of that particular incentive when we wrote it. And we haven't discussed it as a planning commission. So I'm just flagging that for everybody. And for me, what we had discussed was the edits to D going from 75 to 65% lot coverage for administrative review. And then I think there's a discussion around like what is administrative review and how, if we leave it in, like how we can strengthen that review and how we can notify neighbors and how we can reduce costs for appeal process and how we can have other people within the staff sign off on it just to make sure that we all feel good about it. Mm-hmm. So that's what I thought the discussion was going to be about, and not about now having this new incentive outside of the PUD.
So, are you feeling like we could pull this for other information along? I mean, for the other?
Well, that would be my recommendation until we actually get to talk about what it would
that.
mean to put this incentive in our residential districts
Since
outside of PUDs, because we
really
have not discussed
covered it.
that. Yeah.
You're talking about the 75%?
Mhm.
Yeah. See, and my thought was going to 65% all the way across the board, because I believe I read in here that very few lots, I think in the city, can meet the 75% threshold. So why put it in there if they can't? So just go to 65%.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I was thinking is, you know, there are instances where administrative review or approval is appropriate, but, you know, I'm thinking back 15, 20 years, whatever. We as a city had, and I believe the city council had approved this or put this in, I don't know, as policy or whatever, but when a project, a developer comes in with a project, it goes to the planning, whatever your term is now, I'll say zoning administrator. Every department head in the city looks at it and gives their input. So public works, public safety, police, fire, whoever gives their input into it and flags any issues that might be there. And I hope that's still happening. I don't know if that's the process or not, but the reason for that was to get other eyes on it, so that, for example, the fire chief can look at it and say, oh, well, no, that driveway is too narrow, or whatever. Public Works can look at it and say, no, the sewer line has to be enlarged, or whatever it might be. And that was a way that we thought, we hoped that you'd have more eyes on the project to look at all the different issues that might raise red flags. And again, I don't know if that's what's currently happening, but I know that was what was happening at least.
But there's obviously been a breakdown in that because of what's, again, at Franklin Street.
Well,
right?
that's why I'm saying, I don't know what's happening
I
now,
don't
but
know
that
if
was.
I think maybe, I don't know, Abby, would you recommend that we pull that, what is it, what section are we?
The administrative review?
Yeah.
I just have that one.
5.14.
So would you be comfortable, would other people be comfortable pulling 5.14 and moving everything else forward and giving that more
More scrutiny?
Well, I'm comfortable with moving forward what we've discussed, which is moving 75% down to 65%.
Okay.
Are you talking about pulling administrative review out entirely and making that recommendation?
Throw it out there. I mean, you're saying
I think-
not, right?
Yeah, I'm saying not, because I thought there was a process that the city had developed where multiple eyes, multiple department heads looked at every project that came
Yeah.
across the table
Yeah.
to ensure that it met, whatever they were involved with.
So are you saying we could pull that section, the administrative review, out and work on it, but the recommendation would be to pull it until we work on it?
No, I'm saying keep it, but drop everything to 65%.
Okay, you
Okay.
guys have been saying that for a long time.
Yeah, I'm just
I'm okay with
suggesting that
Yeah.
there was a process
Yeah.
involved 15 or 20 years ago that I don't know, I've been out of touch for, hate to say it, 11 years, so I don't know what goes on here anymore.
So if we were gonna add some of those things that even you sort of recommended, which was the notifying the neighbors,
Yeah.
reducing the appeal process,
Yeah.
making sure more folks than just you are looking at it, would that be built into this section?
Yeah, so you can build in that neighbors must be notified when I take any action on a project that's subject to this section. The multiple review aspects, yes, I think you can just put that in there, that there needs to be like signatories from like Public Works and Code Enforcement into this.
I mean, I don't think it hurts, right? I mean,
Sure.
it's a
Yeah.
benefit.
Yeah, it doesn't
It's
hurt.
fine.
Yeah.
What else?
The reduction in the cost of appeals?
That is up to council to determine fees. And appeals are set for the entire city. But yeah, it's up to you if you want to reduce costs for appeals. Right now, an appeal costs $500.
I would say, when this comes to us, why don't you include in the memo that was something that planning had wanted council to think about?
Yeah, it was something Rebbe suggested when this was going through the churn and burn.
Yeah. My philosophy on this is if we're going to move forward with more administrative allowances, then we have to reduce appeal fees. So that way the appeal process is more accessible.
Sure.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Good.
I'm cognizant of the time, and we're 3 minutes over
I
what
know
I said
you're-
we're gonna stop, so let's,
What about public comment on this before we close?
I think Kate wants to comment. Go ahead. Yes.
Comment
Go
here.
ahead.
Yes.
So we are pulling this section E, is that what we're talking about?
No. Section E.
Yes.
Yes.
Let me find section E.
So, Mike, you talked about the previous process, and I was really hoping that Rody was gonna say, yeah, we're still doing that. So what was the process? Who reviewed, well, thank you so much. Who did review 12 Franklin, if it wasn't the fire chief, and who reviewed that?
So typically now, when I receive a zoning permit application for any larger development, I send it to police and fire. I send it to fire and to Public Works immediately. I'm not with 12 Franklin. I did send it to Code Enforcement. I'm not sure if I sent it to Public Works. Again, first month on the job, so I'm looking through what all the processes are and trying to figure this out. But I've also learned a lot. And so we've tried to strengthen our processes, and now we meet every month with Public Works on all projects. And I regularly talk to Code Enforcement on all projects, so.
So I think the key is here, going forward, I mean.
Yeah.
Has to be.
That's not in here, though.
No, that's what right, but
Yeah.
I think that's, we talked about, did we talk about putting that in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about putting it in here, so it will be in
When
here,
it moves forward.
yeah, as it moves forward. And, again, 12 Franklin Street, it's unfortunate No one likes it, except for the developer, but unfortunately, it's done. And so we're trying to correct these errors, and this is one way to do that, moving forward.
I would think that the city would not want to keep moving forward with these administrative reviews, given what's happening at 12 Franklin, because of liability issues.
So I think we're gonna move this forward as is, and when it gets to
As
the.
is
When you say
without
as
E.
is.
What's that?
Without
It
E.
should be clarifying,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, without,
without E,
without
with
E.
the butters being notified, with specific people as a part of the administrative review process. DPW director, you said fire marshal, police chief, code enforcement.
Yeah, I would put in public works and code enforcement.
And not the fire marshal.
Fire marshal is code enforcement.
Oh, okay. And that's what you were saying? DPW and code enforcement covers you? And what
yeah,
you were
all
suggesting?
the department heads, essentially.
Well, that's different than DPW and code enforcement.
No, because one of the department heads is DPW,
Yeah.
and one of the department heads is public fire safety or whatever, right? I mean,
Well, there's
At
like
least
parks
it
and
was.
recs
There was-
department heads, there's,
Yeah,
So
I
like
also
John-
want to put
Department
all
heads.
department heads,
All-
like Ray doesn't need to see this,
Right.
Jesse doesn't need
Yeah.
to see it, you know.
right,
But give them a list.
code
whoever's
enforcement.
appropriate, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it should be public works, public safety,
Public
code
safety.
enforcement.
is that code enforcement?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's code
So-
enforcement, it's all.
Okay.
So I guess I'm a little confused. So we're not forwarding the incentives part that talks about planning developments, minimum parking, bonus stories. That's all part of E, down to administrative review.
No, this is
the
E.
subsection.
Sub, yeah.
Oh.
It's just the new
okay.
language.
So it's section 5.14 for E.
E, correct.
Okay,
Yep.
got to be clear.
Yes, you did. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Anything else? If not, let's pause this meeting and we'll bring the Housing Commission forward. We apologize for making you wait for not quite an hour, 55 minutes. So we'll take a 2-minute break while the Housing Commission comes up and joins us. Oh, and we can stretch. And everyone who came for the previous part, if you're leaving, thank you for coming. If you're hanging around, great.
So we'll resume the public forum after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess
She stepped on my shoes.
Because people just tip randomly.
You just don't get too
Okay.
close. It's like heat radiating off of it.
Okay.
Very good. Your Housing Commission?
There's an outlet, the only outlet is that one there. But it does move, so if nobody else is using it.
You're looking at her. And that's it.
If I'd known that, I wouldn't have paused our public
No, you
hearing.
can just keep on. And I think Nora is online.
Nora is on.
And Jasmine.
Yep.
Is it Jasmine?
Jasmine.
Yeah. Sean is coming. Jasmine said that there was a lot of us making sessions. I'm gonna come back in here so I can see it. Where it went. It's in my.
Yeah, I mean, people took the agendas from the top and ran.
Oh, I've been next to that.
hosted.
Even
I've been next to one.
Do you?
Yeah.
I have a recording.
Yeah. I just meant just
Somewhere.
planning is hosted.
Yes.
Okay.
Every single other meeting I have on computer.
Hey, Brady, Michelle has some questions.
Yeah, I think,
We'll
Yeah.
have to revisit that. after.
yeah, I think we'll revisit it after we bring it back
At
up.
8 o'clock,
Whenever we
who's gonna leave at 8?
come back to the public hearing.
Yeah.
Who's leaving at 8?
I'm not sure who it
There's
was.
a
Jasmine told me that somebody has to leave at 8 on housing.
It's Jessica.
Jessica has to leave.
All right. Jessica, you have to leave at 8?
Kind of, I have
Busy?
to, well, no.
Go sell that house.
Children.
Oh, I forget about that.
Somebody's gotta go to those children.
What's that?
Somebody's gotta go to those children. I can probably stretch it to 8:15.
Okay. We're going to move on to Article 6, which is a discussion with the Housing Commission about draft building typologies. Did I say it right that time?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay. Does Jeff who's going to do this? Jeff or Jasmine or Revy or?
I'm gonna turn it over to you, Jeff.
Okay, let's see. I am gonna just jump into it and share my screen and see if we can get the PowerPoint to go where it's supposed to go.
Jeff, we apologize for keeping you hanging for an hour, but thank you for contributing to our previous discussion.
No, it's interesting, and it's all good stuff, and a lot of it is related, so I was taking notes. Now, this is an update. I think most everyone saw this show at the housing, or a lot of you saw something, a version of this, earlier version of this, at the, it's my last housing commission meeting, I don't know if you're most recent. We have updated graphics and some additional things. My thought is to try to run through this quickly, hit the high points, and then maximize the amount of time we have to have questions. And we can certainly go back to any of these if we need to. And to some degree, there's too much to talk about, so I'm just going to proceed. Quick reminder, we're still recommending that RA be taken out, and there may be exceptions to that. Generally, RA is a much significantly different kind of animal, a more particular time, also farther from the center, whereas the A and B have a more consistent character, more dense and in the center. At one point, those red boxes represented places we had picked out models from, but I'm not sure that's true anymore.
Sorry, Jeff, I think your introductory slide, was that giving an overview to folks who haven't been a part of this process, what the process is?
Yes, the one that I was on for not enough time.
Yeah, maybe just quickly go over that, because I think some folks are new to this discussion since it's been so expedited.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you for that, holding me back. This is what we kind of boiled down our task, and to some degree, this is the way we see it. So there's more to it than this, but at base, what we're looking for are units that are at least 1,200 square feet net, and that's kind of a threshold for a reasonable 3-bedroom unit per our program. And the second place is we're looking, when we look at a lot, we are trying to maximize, without being ugly or mean, we're trying to maximize the number of units or buildings with units. At the same time, we have character considerations, so no skyscrapers here. And the third, we're looking at lot cover maximums. The base is 50%. So when we look at a lot, we first look at 50% cover. Second, we go to 65% cover. The standards to get that extra 15% cover, at least half the units have to meet that 3-bedroom threshold and be affordable housing. However, we're just dealing with the physical building, so we're not dealing with the finances that would help that happen. That's out of our hands. And then the third is the 75% cover, which is everything. That's 100% 3-bedroom and affordable housing. And we always conceived of that. Never thought of that as one building with one unit on it, but because we're looking for more. And in general, the 75%, we've looked at it several times, and it doesn't seem to help that much. And on the one hand, on the other hand, well, also arguing against exploring 75% doesn't help much, and it's a really strict, everything has to be affordable housing in 3 bedrooms. So that's a pretty demanding threshold. So we've really mainly concentrated on looking at 50 and 65%. In these areas minus the RA. And we've also got, we've mapped the historic buildings. They don't show here, but we've worked on adjacent lots, but never directly with one of those, which is probably smart. In the Housing Commission, we had talked about, had explored the models at the top, the ones that just popped in at the bottom, those are new. Those tend to be looking at what happens when you put one of those lots on the corner. Some of this I've already said. For the smaller lots, double cover is necessary, and that means I would call it cheating, but on the coverage. If you have what we call tuck under parking, and you'll see that in the very next slide, where the buildings, you park underneath some part of the building, that's double, you're using the cover twice, once for the parking and also for the building. So in the small lots, it seems you almost have to do that. And we're also, 3-story buildings are almost universal. Based on that, we started thinking about ways to make the scale be a little more comfortable. Front porches, pitched roofs, etc. Small lots, the 50 by 100s are just tough. A little easier when they get deep, but it's still tough. As I said, 75% cover seems like only for special cases. And then we have explored the idea of for deep lots, and Winooski has a lot of deep lots, way beyond 100. That, if you're talking about putting a second building back there, that gets into some interesting issues that I hope we have time to talk about. That's in an early handout that I think Robbie sent out with the original package that was touched upon. And also, I mentioned, we suggest just not even thinking about the RA lots, because they're too different. So I'll fly through, we've operated the graphics a little bit, so you can see the house and the pavement versus the, not necessarily lawn, but soil and plant area. We also, on these, started looking at potential ways to have real trees, and I mean real big trees, canopy shade trees, that could be planted in the frontage. Knowing that you have tight streets, and these are not in the right of way, we tend to, and all of these are lining up with the front of the porch and in between the buildings. This is that type you see it stepping over the parking, so you're coming off the driveway and turn 90 degrees and park under the building. And there's some cost implications there.
Where you have that tree, sorry Jeff, where you have that tree, how much space do you have that tree in?
There is 5 feet from the property line to the asphalt of
that's not what's being showed, but you're saying potentially you would have 10 feet there instead of just 5 for the tree.
Yes, because the other lot has a 5-foot setback as well. There's a little bit of, be generous to call it imperfection with the building footprints. So that one looks like it's really sitting about 2 feet off its property line, the box on the near side of that one. But in most cases, you've got at least 5 feet on both sides of the property line. And this is looking more at the building in context on the bottom from behind. And on this, with the tuck under, and a lot of these, the first floor unit is just smaller. In some cases, it might not make, it might have 1,200 square feet, but because it is most probably an ADA unit, you might not get 3 bedrooms, it might be 2, but a second and third floor would be 3-bedroom units. And we are looking at one working space per unit. Here's a axonometric drawing of that, so you start to see some of the dimensions. And basically 1,400 or 1,300 square feet on the upper floors, and that's net minus the stair. This is noteworthy because when we tried to have on a 50 by 100 foot lot, and just have the building be a simple 3 stories box, and not span over the parking, we couldn't get to the numbers. The units were just about 100 square feet too small. Here's a larger version of that on the same lot. And also on all of these, we've applied a front porch, and we're making a real recommendation that the front porch does not count toward the cover. You already do that with handicap ramps, and the front porch is a real benefit to character. And I'd also say the function. Here's that unit again. This is at 65% cover, but it is a good deal underneath that. Now, we haven't fully accounted for everything that's going to be impervious. You may have an AC unit that's on the ground, walkways, etc. It's not a question of trying to hit that maximum coverage right on, because it's a very squirrely thing to do, and some real world detail would very likely come up and screw the whole thing up. So we're maintaining a little wiggle room. Also, it's just weirdly difficult to creep up to that number. They tend to jump around. There's a lot of trial and error in our work. This is, things get more interesting when the lots get wider. This is actually also on Franklin Street, but this is 107 foot wide by 100 foot deep. And there are a number of these in Winooski, some a little bit deeper, a little bit wider, etc. But here, the choice is to, instead of having one larger building, to have 2 buildings, so you get space in between the buildings. And if you see the frontages around it, these buildings are taller, but they're also thinner. So it's the idea is you're keeping a small scale, relatively small scale of individual buildings with space between them as you walk down the street or bicycle down the street. And okay, this is on this lot 50% cover. Pretty fair, about 1,000 plus square feet lower than that, to the maximum 50%. And in the one below, and I don't know how large or small this is on from where you are, but on the bottom you see that the parking comes around the back, and 2 of the 3 parking spaces are under the building, so covered. Again, second, third floor, are the full 3-bedroom units. The first floor is probably, well, most certainly a 1-bedroom unit. So it's a mix. And this is similar building, but you see we've taken a step on this one. By the way, we did on the very first one. A little bit trying to configure the front of the building so that it is a little bit less imposing. And so that third floor has kind of a, I won't call it a mansard roof because it's got a steeper pitch. It's more of a pitch than that, like a real roof. Mansards are just sometimes, they don't really reduce the scale of a building more than a little bit of perception, but if the roof has a real pitch to it, if you're on that street, you see a lot less of it. So the third floor is going to be a little bit smaller. In this case, still meets the threshold, and they have on the front of the building dormer windows. And in all the cases where there are two buildings, it seems obvious to put a tree in between them up on the frontage with a ton of room to grow. So 65% cover, still well under that. And the second, third floor units, that four units that fit the 3-bedroom affordable housing. And then going to go to a lot now that's only 64 feet wide, but 179 feet deep. And here, the building is just a bigger building. It's about, there's some of the other buildings here with the boxes of tofu. As you see them here, are, it's not that this one is that much wider than the widest of the others, but it's every bit as wide and 3 stories. So full front porch, parking in the back. There's an issue with narrow lots because you're just going to lose probably 18 feet, about 5-foot setback on one side, a 10-foot lane, and then maybe you could get away with, we've gotten away with 3 feet on the other side, so there's 18 feet. It's just cut out of buildable area of the building. Here it is from behind, and from the front, in context. So it has a fair amount of green in the back. Something to note here, this didn't make 50%, this is 53%. And we weren't having any luck getting smaller than that. One of the things we're throwing up as for consideration is increasing for affordable housing. Maybe you increase that 50% maximum to 55 or something. 6 units, second, third, fourth units. This is a building that's split down the middle. So it's like 2 skinny units that flank the central stair, and there are 2 on each floor. Another version of that, this may look like the very same building. It is a little bit deeper. All the units have a couple of hundred square feet in them. Yeah, but again, you have, it's just the second, third, fourth units. 4 of the 6 units are full 3-bedroom affordable housing. And then this is a lot that's 139 feet wide and 170. The 170-foot depth is something that is not, or something around that or deeper is fairly common. And again, on this wide lot, you've got the buildings spaced out fairly evenly with the neighbors' driveway in the middle. In this rendering, this is 20 feet, so this gives the fire marshal, they actually don't need this as a fire lane because the buildings are close enough to the street. There's a concern if the buildings get deeper in the lot, they can pull hoses, as they call it, from the street and fight the fire from all sides. I think it's 150 or 170 feet from the curb. Beyond that, they need to move a truck back. 150, thank you. And then looking at the image on the bottom, it's a pretty decent percentage. There's a lot of green left back there. So you can imagine this could be heavily planted with trees, gardens, etc. Here's a plan view of that. This is one of my ugly computer drawings, but it's got the measurements on it. Everybody's 1250 net. And then the other side, if you're talking about how the green area could be trees and gardens, is we saw that and we thought we could put more buildings there. So that's what we did. The next iteration of this, those same buildings, but we put, these are like ADUs. They're 600 square foot footprints, but so they would be 2-story, 3-bedroom units in back. Actually, I just popped into my head on this one. The one in the back shows windows on the side lot line. Probably those windows might not be there, they'd be slid around, so you could have windows on 3 sides, but maybe not right on the property line. So these would be a different kind of unit, still 2 bedrooms, 3-bedroom affordable units with an internal stair. And then looking at them from behind, you might note that we pulled the units up instead of putting them in the back far corners. We pulled them up so they're a pretty fair distance from that rear lot line. So they're up against the side neighbors, but not the rear. And these are, here you're talking about 14 units, which probably the 4 of those units on the street front building might be, probably could be with ADA only 2-bedroom.
Do you want us to jump in here, or do you want to wait till the end?
Go ahead, jump in.
Well, I think we talked about this before, that those 2 smaller buildings in the back, I'm going to guess that those aren't going to be cost effective for developers to put there.
It's very, very possible. We're not sure about that, given that they're already there in building. But that could be a part of the model that doesn't get implemented very often. So I think we did hear you the first time we debated it. I guess we think it's worth showing. It might be sort of don't count your chickens before they hatch. It might be you want to be careful about counting them in an overall estimate. So but the builder, they're there with their construction crew. I think if they were building them on their own, that would be a bigger increment of not working.
Okay, thank you.
But that's a real consideration. And this is really a version of that, playing with the frontage and trying to do something that has a little more detail that could break down the scale. I don't want to say, I guess that's the best way. I don't want to say it makes the units cuter or maybe more comfortable in the neighborhood, but there's an appearance on the front of the unit that looks a little bit more like this is a 2.5-story house. So that's debatable, and then here's looking at that unit from behind. Different way to parking, the little bump in the middle of the back there. is thinking about, it's where the garbage dumpster goes. And then there's a parking lot, parking space on either side, just because we need it for the numbers.
And Jeff, on this one, all the units are threes, correct? I think that's 3 bedrooms.
Yes, although the units are,
Well, that one doesn't look a little bit, it's indicated as such on
yeah, these are 1289.
the, yeah.
My cataract, my approaching cataracts, I'm screwing that up too much. So it's on the margin, but the thought is that you could do the ground floor units as 3 bedrooms and still get ADA. Also, I wanted to point out, if you look at the top of the page, where there's looks like a building floating in space, that's a scheme to take the 3rd floor and lose units, but there may be a situation where the 3-story building that goes all the way up, this would take that 3rd story and combine it into one unit. It's a bigger unit, 1,400 square foot net. So you'd lose 2 units if you did it to both of these. But what you would have is an apartment or a residence, 3, maybe 4 stories, but at least 3 up in the roof, and they have dormer windows. So I drew the solid line indicating where the walls are. It's in the roof, so that's where the floor, you could have a full 6-foot height before you hit the roof. So it would be a little bit like an attic story. And that's an option you lose numbers, you lose 2 units total to get when you lose that 3rd story. But it's a matter of scale. If this happened to be in a neighborhood where 1 story was the predominant type, but that's the option. And then this is really a look at different things to do with that roof. And please ignore those 2 flat buildings in the back. We sort of opted against those. They cover too much land. They're not nice to the neighbors. They're probably ugly. So just some simple options, 3-story building with a pitch roof. We are recommending that to not allow on a 3rd floor a gable towards the street, because it just raises the height straight up even more. And then again, on the same line, a different approach, which is to go with 4 narrow buildings. 3 units in each one. You notice they poke out in the very back. I'm not sure if you can see that. But the ground floor sticks out in the back about 10 or 12 feet. That means that recaptures all the area that's taken up by the stairs and hallways that go from front to back. So the ground floor unit on these are definitely big enough for 3 stories. So this gives you 3 units in each building. With the frontage, it's really narrower than the neighbors. And then some different graphics, but showing these are all lots that you've seen previously in the slideshow, but this is what happens to them when you put them on the corner. This is the 50, this is 64, this is 64 by 179. And the back unit is just 1 building, a lot of green space in the back. It could be an option on this one with the 1 building might be to have porches on both sides to really pull the scale down. But also, then the version in front has 2 buildings 107 feet wide. On the corner, getting to the parking lot and back just takes up a lot less driveway. So, and this, we've shown two different units. One that's a little more square and one that's long and thin. And the one that's, the far one has two porches. There's a kind of a separate stoop that connects pretty directly with the stairs that go to the second and third floor units. So ways to show a little more variety to the street. This is the, let's see, we're going from the 107 foot wide unit to the one that's 139 and 170 feet. So a lot of space. Of course, here are the three buildings, and I'm probably, at this point, are expecting us to try and put another building on there, which we did. So in terms of fit with the neighborhood, all these buildings, a little bit on the corner where you see the long length of this what I call the side of the building. Other than that, they're fairly small frontages.
Is there a back stairway?
Say again?
Is there a back door or a back staircase?
Yes. There's a hallway to get to it, so that's part of the, and that's part of the bike that comes out of those first floor units. So you can walk from front to back, and as somebody who lives on the second or third floor, come down the stairs and go out the back of the building or the front. Again, something pretty similar, different roof treatment. And these angles don't quite line up, but the same lot, putting a third building on it and shifting the driveway down to the corner. Also note we're putting in trees. One thing these trees do, lined up with the front porches, it's a little more evident if you're walking down the street. And this is I guess this is an urbanist architecting thing of us to do. But as you're walking down the street, the columns of the porch and the trunk of the tree are in alignment, so they kind of help hold that line a little bit. And an image I think you've seen before, talking about importance of what porches can do. And also, these are buildings that are on narrow lots. One of our recommendations is you might consider allowing 30-foot wide lots. You can still do a single-family detached house on it, and it might allow someone with a 60-foot lot or something like that to subdivide and increase opportunities for home ownership. Of course, this is a pretty this is the best, putting the best face on small, narrow frontages and small houses. But they're not as small as the ones that they had on TV a few years ago all the time. And this is just a building that's of the width. I can't tell you exactly how wide this is because we didn't measure it, but clearly it's a fairly substantial building. But the front porch does a lot of good, bringing down the scale and making it, I think, feel good for the street. I also want to look at the cornice element on it is pretty decent. It has a decent enough distance it comes out from the building, and also its vertical distance is something there. So it has an effect on kind of capturing the composition and ending the top of the building in a nice way. And I'll flip through these, just the idea. This is from 2014, or sorry, whenever we did Gateway's project, but just a picture I took, and it's, you know, Winooski is definitely a city of front porches and pictures. And this is an image showing, to some degree, the difference between a third story and a gable end, and a third story that toward the street only has a a roof, with the third story has a dormer out to the street, so it looks smaller. And this,
Sorry, can I just do a time check? I know Jessica has to leave soon, so I want to make sure in case she has any questions.
I can go until.
okay, I'm actually acting in, Reddy asked me to put something up so people could see, get some idea. This is pretty stick man, but see some idea of the different pitches. 512 from right to left, 512, 712, 1212, and 1412. And I will stop there.
Okay. Any questions for Jeff? Jess? Nothing?
No, I was on Zoom for their last presentation, so this feels familiar, actually.
I was curious, Jeff, because the previous discussions we've had, and you've got on, I know one of the graphics you showed was our friendly Franklin Street, and you had 3-story buildings on it that maybe doesn't quite fit with what exists there now. Is that just to show how much building you could get?
Yeah, there's a discussion. I say this with awareness, this is me, but I really would argue that the third-story building isn't that disruptive if the rest of it is handled well. So having a third story on a street that has only 2-story and 1.5-story houses isn't necessarily breaking the bank.
Yeah.
If you're careful about the other aspects of it. For instance, the front porch, and if it's not overly wide. It is taller, yes.
Yeah.
But it's terrible.
The other question I had was, you showed that towards the end of your slides, the narrow lots, 30-foot wide lots.
Yes.
What are the dimensions of the houses that you put there? Because I would think you need a driveway to get for parking.
There's the rub.
There is the rub.
Okay.
And the only way you can do that is if there are a bunch of 30-foot lots. When they were platted, if someone put a common driveway behind them,
Yep.
so they had in effect a mini alley. There is some place where the cars have to come in, but then the parking in these is in the back, so it's kind of it's alley-like.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what we talked about when we were talking about the form-based code, right? On the gateways.
Yes, I don't know if anybody ever got that done in a way where one connected with another one, but it's an aspiration. Actually, we had a meeting with Nate, I don't remember his last name, sorry.
Nate DeJess?
The builder.
Yeah, Nate DeJess.
It's something we talked about. Just 35 seconds, and we all agreed if that could happen, if there were a way to make that a little bit easier, or at least recognize that. I think that the quote, not his words, but maybe close, that would be nice, or that would be great. But it's not easy.
Yeah.
And I should have mentioned that when I was showing this picture.
The other question I have is again, it kind of relates to our discussion, I think, of blank walls. Those building on a 30-foot lot, I'm assuming they're maybe 24 feet wide. I don't know, but 20 feet wide.
Well, that's a guess.
So in terms of the front aesthetics, if you will, you've got the porches, which is nice, but doors, windows, I mean, are you looking at a couple of windows there plus a door, or am I getting too specific?
Different sign.
Well, actually, these are all laid out, you can kind of see it on all of them, with the 3-window or door bay
Yeah.
design. So, for instance, this one with the floor tab, the middle is not a window but a door. But there are always at least 2 windows.
Yeah. So I guess that kind, to me, that kind of answers the question that we were talking about before about, I'll bring it up again, 12 Franklin Street, what could have been done? And it was possible to get a door and a couple windows per floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure the floor plan of the builder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else from anybody? Public? Kate?
I have a
Kate?
comment or a question.
Steve, you need her to come to the microphone.
I can pick up anemic audio.
I have a,
Yeah, the
can
mayor
you
doesn't
go up
bite.
to the, one of the ones with the 4 in a row there? Yeah, so those spaces in between, they become quite narrow, right? And the windows down the side, you're looking in from one building to the next. And the grass is, or the area between the buildings is probably shaded most of the time. So I wouldn't want that for someone, I guess. I understand that there's a need for housing, and I guess I should have led with, I believe during the previous mayor's term, there was a study that was done, and it determined that housing is actually costing the city, and it is increasing taxpayers' tax burden. And if that study did happen, I'd love to see that, and I'd love for people to understand that. And now I'll go back and say, I'm not sure that I think that, looking in from your window to someone else's window is that nice of an experience. And if we go to Franklin Street, I walked down there tonight, and there's no sidewalk on Franklin Street, so, bringing additional people and families, I think, is the goal here, to this street without a sidewalk is getting a little ahead of itself. Like, I know many of you have heard me complain and carry on about Manceau Street, which has one of Nate DeGuess's buildings and a Summit building right at the end of it. And it's a very narrow street, and it doesn't have a sidewalk. And so me and my 300 new neighbors are walking in the street, and now the Armory building has passed, and that's going in, and the city engineer calls out that there's still no sidewalk on Manceau Street, and I think that these things need to be looked at in sort of a broader sense. And yeah, I think starting with what's the cost of housing, and to sit at a meeting, and I've been wrong many times in my life, and this would not be the last time, but I do believe that that in terms of added services, adding more houses ends up costing the city. So yes, I understand we have a housing director, and it's their job to, advocate for housing, but the buildings that I'm seeing here just don't look like places that, they just don't look that great as an experience for a place to live. And if they are for children, for families with children, I hope, where's the playground and where's any of those sort of utilities? It matters. It matters in terms of a lived experience of not only children, but other humans who like windows and grass and getting their feet into the soil.
Here we go. I think you make a lot of seriously good points, and I agree with you on almost all of them. I think a couple of things, mitigating factors. Getting more housing in Winooski will help your tax base, which will help you be able to afford things like sidewalks. But you're right, that's a problem. As for the buildings being close together and views from one end to the other, that is one of my pet peeves, is that thing about privacy and such. What you would have to do with this building, I put up the plan to see that with the stairs on one side consistently, there's one side that's more closed than the other. The floor plans of these would have to be pretty carefully done so the windows didn't line up. And to some degree, that side of the building, which I'm going to just, let's pretend that's the north side of the building, will have fewer windows and views. And be careful, the architect needs to be careful that they don't line up directly. And some of the windows on that north side might be high windows that light and light don't give you views. So it's kind of I don't know, architects like to talk about Charleston, South Carolina, and north side manners, where supposedly the big side yard houses are set up so they look into a side yard and not into their backyard. The reality isn't quite that nice, or that clean. But these houses would need to be set up with generally the south side having more windows than the north side, because so you're not watching your neighbor brush his teeth or worse. But that's a real issue. These buildings have 12 or 13 feet between them at the narrowest. And that can be distributed a little bit. With the driveway, it goes up to 16 feet. And in terms of darkness, you probably would not put a shade-loving grass, a sun-loving grass between those houses. But being in the out of direct sun doesn't mean dark. I mean, you could read a book in that side yard. But I'm not saying it's a wide enough space. I don't think it's quite as bad as you're suggesting. But I'm not dismissing your point about that. Also, another thing that could be done with this, the parking area could be slid back or forward, probably back to where it bumps up to that first. I believe parking can be 5 feet, or I'd take it to the 10-foot rear lot line, so that behind each of these buildings there's some kind of green area. That would increase the green area. But I appreciate your points, especially about privacy. And maybe an option on this would be 3 skinny buildings.
So let me interrupt you for a second, because Jess, you're going to go, but you have a question or comment?
Are you running the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just call in and mute on Zoom, so we can, I'll be here for the next 15 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jess.
Yeah, thanks.
And Michelle Wheeler mentioned in the chat that she has some comments.
Is Michelle still online?
Yep, I can allow her to talk.
Yep.
Okay.
Welcome back, Michelle. Michelle, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Now we can, yep.
Okay, so
Part of the
sorry.
bar,
Now
yeah.
I'm driving in a car, so this is not really easy at all. Thank you for accepting these comments. Thank you, Jeff, for all the work you've done. This was really informative and very helpful to understand how we can get more housing in. And I especially like how you oriented things for streetscapes so that they actually look a little bit more like what is already in many of our neighborhoods in regards to the porches and the entries, and the roof lines as well. However, in reading some of your comments, what I really see, even when you're working with the 50% lot coverage, that you're really in a catch-22 when you're trying to put this much density in. And according to your comments, it's either the buildings have to be tall, you have to put the 3 stories in, which starts to make them dwarf the neighboring houses because you're trying to put the parking tucked underneath, or you're taking up too much of the lot space. And my comment is that presumably these are not units being built for 3 sets of college students. They're units being built for children. And in your very own definition of the word character, which is a buzzword, but you define character partially in terms of, the height of the buildings and how they fit into the neighborhood, and also in relation to the yards, the backyards, having backyards. And I appreciate that because I think there's been a lot of misinterpretation or misinterpretation of intent when we talk about character. And I'm finally glad to see some comment with things speaking specifically about the yards we have. And if these are supposed to be units and housing for children, and there's so much lot coverage that they are playing literally in their own parking lot. That's not a great experience for families, and I would highly suggest trying to be, making, I don't know, there's ways to parse the difference on some of these and have a little less density and a little more living space so that you have room for children to play in, so that they do have yards, and you don't have to worry about looking into your neighbor's bedroom. I hear what you're saying about juxtaposing windows, but it's more like that being so narrow that it's literally like not having. How about air circulation? If the building is between those narrow buildings and stuff like that, it's just there's just a lot to be said for maybe keeping some modifications, but I do appreciate the way that they look because they look much more in tune. But I would also wonder, and I would just like to harken back to the Winooski master plan, which I started reading and didn't have time to go through it all. But in the master plan, I don't know if these units are for sale or for being condo that way, or if they would be rentals. But in the master plan in Winooski, it talks a lot about making sure that there is more housing for buying, because we have the highest percentage of rentals in the whole state, not just Chittenden County, but in the entire state. And that's just something to be looked at, because part of the plan and part of what the goals were to increase affordable home ownership. And maybe that means having less 6 and 12 unit buildings and having more townhouse style homes that can be made into affordable housing for people to purchase. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Any other questions or comments for Jeff?
Jeff has a question or comment.
What's that?
Yeah, go ahead.
If I may.
Yeah.
I'm, first of all, again, those are seriously good points. I would say, this is something I want to ask Keith to not be shy about jumping in as well. I think one thing, the extra Franklin Street, in a place that does start to get dense, it underlies the importance of public parks that you can walk to. I grew up in a two different places, but a lot of it, a Denver, Colorado suburb that was kind of a post-war, blue-collar, little houses suburb. And actually, we didn't play in our yards as much. Once beyond certain ages, we'd go down to an empty field and play baseball or football or something. But the idea, part of the idea is kids do play in their yards up to a certain point. And yards are nice, but there's also public parks and things to do that are a short walk away. And I'm not trying to totally counter her point, just mitigate it a little. I think on the subject of air getting around the buildings, I don't see that as a problem with anything we've drawn. So the closest we've had buildings come is that 12 or 13 feet. That's more a privacy concern, awareness than the other. And then the thing that you might want to consider, and maybe we need to model a couple of these, is where on the bigger buildings, where they are wider, it is maybe some modeling for that third floor, kind of pull the hat down over the eyes, where that third floor becomes something that's in the roof. Now, you're going to lose 2 units out of, I'm trying to remember, I think this might be 14. You'll lose 2 units. 2 3-bedroom units will become 1 big on each building, 1 larger, 3, maybe 4-bedroom units. So that's something. That brings the height down a lot. And then this is my minority position. I think for a building that is relatively narrow on the street, the extra story of height, I don't think is that disturbing. But then you're depending a lot. You need trees, you need street trees. It is, people are generally very focused on building height. And in my work, it's come to seem not that big a deal. 1-story difference. When you're talking about 2, there's a point of breaking the bank. But that's me, and I'm not a Winooski yet, so I don't get a vote. But I would ask people to just consider a little bit that extra height is not necessarily a deal breaker. And there are other options.
Great, thank you. What's that?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Jeff, when we were doing the walkabout, you had said that the height was a consideration, considering how we're mostly 1 and 2 story houses. And I had mentioned like townhouse style development, and you said, no, we couldn't do that because of the height. You would need the full 3 stories to be able to offer the townhouse style development. It seems like maybe you've come around on the height. Like, have you come around on the townhouse? Just trying to like mash these recommendations with what we discussed when you were here.
So am I. I don't remember exactly what I said, I'm sure. I may have come around a little bit. I think the issue with townhouses is if they're single ownership as opposed to stacked flats. And the ones that we showed, the ones where there were 4 units, these are basically stacked flats where each floor is an apartment. And then, different parts of the eastern United States, they have fancy names for them. Local names in Philadelphia and Massachusetts. But if it's a single unit townhouse or a fee simple townhouse, then it's just one unit, possibly. And that the issue there is for getting affordable housing units, you'll get one 3-bedroom, unless the other possibility I'll throw out is something that's I'm in one right now. In DC, they call it English basement. I have no idea where the name came from, but I'm in a 1911 row house, townhouse, because I have a front porch. But there's a sort of a half basement on the half ground floor. It's pretty much level with the street, but the rest of the lot is raised up. And that's a unit, it's a rental unit. And that unit, my building is 20 by 40, so 800 square feet. And then there's that first floor, which is half in the ground. That is, so it's a 2-unit building. So you could, that's a way you could get affordable housing. You could get 2 units. Only one would be the 3-bedroom that you're pursuing, and that would be the call it the first and second floor. I don't know if it would make any sense to build a 3-bedroom townhouse that's all one unit. But that would be an option. You're not getting very many units on the width of that building, but you would be getting, it could be 2 affordable units, only one of which hits the 3-bedroom threshold, but the other one is still a unit. And maybe it's a market rate 1-bedroom or efficiency. So, I don't know, did I confuse everyone again?
Well, that, plus the fact that we've been here 3 hours doesn't
Yeah, I
help.
think we're all getting a little fried. It's not your fault.
I've only been here for 2, so.
So you're fresh. So
I
Matt
guess
has a question.
Well, I just want to say, I think this was really helpful, like being able to visualize what sort of densifying Winooski might look like. And honestly, I do actually find it really inspiring to imagine and think about. And I do feel like this presentation actually helped me sort of wrap my head around what it might look like. So thank you so much.
Yeah, in the back. Come on up.
And before we go, I'd like to...
Hey, we got someone, Jeff, sorry, someone has a question or a comment.
Sorry, yeah.
Your name?
Eli Ogilvy. Okay. I'm also on city council, but just talking as a resident today. So a lot of developers, cost is almost the #1 issue that they have. So of the ones that you showed today, which ones would be the most cost effective? Because that's most likely the ones they're going to propose. So of the ones you showed today, which one do you think would be the most cost effective?
I'll give you it's kind of a cartoon answer, but typically the one that has the most unit with the least surface, kind of like a sphere has less surface area for the volume. So probably not this one. Let me see. Sorry. Probably something like one of these.
Yeah.
You know, to a certain point, a developer chime in. But
No, I completely agree. You're doing a wonderful job of answering these questions, so I didn't want to pile on, keep these folks longer than they've already been there. But no, Jeff's absolutely right. I mean, they're going to be looking at the surface area, and so you know, the number of buildings is a factor there, and how many units they can fit in one building. And I just want to say, if I can add anything to that, just to reinforce, I think that's one of the things that, not necessarily the cost factor, but maybe partially, it's one of the things that drove us to this notion of narrowing the frontage as much as possible as opposed to stretching out a building along the frontage, which certainly does start to detract from the single-family character that is in, you know, these particular zones. And then if you add to that the third story, that's when you really start to affect that. So the idea of the narrower frontage is good, in my opinion, in terms of the rhythm of the street and so forth. But certainly, I would expect them to find the units, the buildings that have the most units within those, within that footprint are going to be what they see as most cost effective.
Thank you for saying that. I agree with the frontage aspect of it, because unfortunately I think that the one that you showed was the one I think is the least attractive of all the other buildings. So
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
great point. I was thinking the same thing.
So, yeah, thank you for the ideas, and yeah, thank you for the presentation. It was great.
And Mr. O'Brien, I keep wanting to call you Mayor O'Brien, because I'm stuck in.
You call me Mike, or what's your name?
Okay. Quick point, this is, and I think all of you got this. I just wanted to bring up the issue with buildings behind buildings is actually it's interesting. It sort of compounds problems, and some of them are just the technical problems which I listed here. But I think the other things I didn't brought up today about children and yard space, etc. When you start going deep in the block, I think it starts to have costs, social and environmental. It gets to be it gets more and more difficult. And I will also apologize that for some reason the hatching on this one, the real lot off of Clare Street, somehow the grass started to grow inside the buildings here. They're actually all like down in the back. But it's just we did really push on the deep lots. Of course, this on the Clare Street is kind of a cartoon. You can look at it and say no one would ever do that, but it can be done so that you meet the coverage requirements. So it's important to look at, and maybe if you don't like it, make sure it doesn't happen. But as we explored it, we kept finding multiplying issues.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
I guess like what do we do with this? What is this? What is this?
Yeah. Did you hear that, Jeff? What the heck do we do with this?
Jeff, I mean, I'll defer to you, Mike, but
What's that?
I'll defer to you about this, but
Yeah.
do you want Jeff to go over the recommendations that he has? I think I gave you draft recommendations on short notice, and I knew that you wouldn't have the time to review it
Yeah.
because it was short notice, but I think that if you have the time, it might be good for Jeff to go over them, because those are some.
Jeff, can you do that in like in 5 minutes?
Yeah, like should this be at a future meeting where we actually like
Or maybe we can,
figure out what is being?
Yeah, we can.
yeah, can we do a future meeting, or we can look at them? Just because it's getting so late
Yeah,
that,
and
you
we
know,
haven't even seen them.
it's past my bedtime, Jeff.
All your dinner is going to taste really good. Mine too. But yeah, these are they're in progress. So we'd like to get comments from you on them, and we can, not now, but later. It's fine. We'll do another meeting for sure. Some of them are in response to things we bumped into, and you know, I made a note today when you talked about fenestration. That might be, we don't have that in our recommendations. We talked about making sure there are front porches on fronts and things like that. But and some of these you may love, and some of these you may think, you know.
What were you smoking?
Well, I just think To Eli's point, Jeff, like cost is obviously the most critical factor here, and people are building the cheapest things possible that meet the code. So like giving us a real example of like what we can expect in terms of, like you can give us really pretty buildings and show us all these pretty things, but like what's it actually gonna look like on the ground? And like what does that mean for the code? And then yeah, like if we've talked about tree canopy last time you were here, like how do we maintain or add to the tree canopy amongst this more dense development we're getting? And so like if what you're showing us actually shows the 5-foot setback on both sides, just to like, so we have some real world examples of like, yeah, you can densify and still have trees. And yeah, you heard comments about like having green space. We don't have a ton of parks in Winooski. We're certainly not adding any more. So just considerations of green space. And then neighbors, abutting neighbors.
Yeah, we'll try and do that. There's one thing that's really tough, is to find, because in the mix, the local architects are gonna design these things, and maybe more than them, the builders have a huge effect on it. So we can find pictures, I guess. If you look at the gateway codes, there's some images in there that, of what we were going for. And the things that got built were really different because, and not necessarily bad, just a different aesthetic because it goes through the architect, or maybe it goes through the builder and the architect gets what's left over. So we'll work on that.
Yeah, it seems crucial. It seems the porch designs are really crucial here. So if we can't get that cost effective, it's kind of a...
We do, yeah, they don't have to be fancy to be good. And I have images of a porch. A colleague of mine had a friend building that was like, I can't remember the budget, relatively inexpensive. It's not going to have the same frontage as these, but I can show you images of a bottom, simple, functional front porch. That functionally does the job. Doesn't look like a Victorian painted lady, but very basic, but it works.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
So we'll work on that.
Yeah.
It looked like
Okay.
John Baker had a comment.
He just said that he agreed with your comment.
Okay.
Yeah, so very much agree with Abby's comment. What's his worst case, and no porches look like.
Okay, thanks, John. All right, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you all, and have a nice sleep.
Yeah, thank you, you too.
Smiles.
But we appreciate the presentation. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
And Kevin.
Okay, so the Housing Commission meeting is over.
Yeah, there's no
And-
more quorum.
And now what's that?
There's no quorum.
They were not voting.
And
right?
now we're going back to the public hearing to pick up and finish that. And so, one thing I wanted to pick up on, Revi, we talked about excluding from section 5.14, I think it's 4E.
Yes.
E4E. Under E4G, it still says 75% there. That's going to be changed to 65%.
E4G.
It says the maximum total lot coverage for any project that utilizes the incentives listed under 5.14E, which I think was, oh, good Lord, whatever, shall be 75%. But we talked about,
So that is also inclusive of PUDs.
I don't think it is based on the number, right? I
Should-
looked at that too.
should-
Yeah, because it's, the numbering is a little strange. So it goes number, capital letter, number, small letter, and then Roman numeral. So once it goes back to F, G, and H, it is it is inclusive of E incentives.
5.14.
Okay.
It's just a weird continuity circumstance where you have E, lowercase e, and then uppercase F.
Okay.
Yeah.
right,
Okay.
so I'm talking about uppercase G now. So it would be,
Yes.
it would be section
Because it's uppercase.
414,
Yes.
4G. Right? 514.
Yes, yes.
And
5
four.
point- Yeah,
5.14.
5.14G. It's just 5.14G.
Okay.
So it's.
You know what I'm talking
I know
about?
exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
And so, yeah, once you remove once you remove 5.14E4E, then that's not going to include the 75% lot coverage. Now, if you want to, it might just be easier just to remove G altogether.
Yeah,
Okay? Okay.
yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
And there's no confusion.
Yeah.
And actually, I think H as well, because H refers to G.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so now I'm gonna, because of the time, I'm gonna ask the commission on any of the other items for the public hearing that we have not yet addressed. Do you have any comments, questions, issues? Abby?
Sure. Okay, so under outdoor lighting, 4.10B, I think and streetlights got left there by accident. Like the last three words in that strikeout.
It's on the, wait.
It's the
And-
outdoor lighting.
So this doesn't apply to, so if you look at C12, it says streetlights shall be coordinated with DPW. It's on the next page, it's on page 22.
So the zoning shall apply to all zoning districts in the city with the exception of the downtown core and gateway zoning district and streetlights.
Yeah.
That's how you wanted it to read?
That's, yeah, because then removing that would then potentially clash with C12 that says streetlights shall be coordinated with the Department of Public Works.
With the exception of the downtown core. Okay, I thought that was a mistake, but maybe it's fine. The other comment is now in the definition section, article, what's IX?
What's that?
9.
9.
9.
I'm impressed I remembered that.
I had written it out.
Under principal structures, why are we striking, each lot shall only contain one principal structured unless configured as a plan unit development as regulated under 6.3?
That might have been a carryover from previous discussions. However, PUDs don't apply to the C1 district or C2. So PUDs are only applicable, let me check, so under 2.5, it says that, or no, 2. Hold on. So, let's see here. Going up to 2.3E. So, each lot in the city's residential A, residential B, or residential C zoning district shall have only one principal structure, but may have multiple accessory structures. Planning and developments, as outlined in 6.3, are exempt. All other zoning districts may include multiple principal structures, provided the dimensional standards in 2.5, section 2.5 are met. So removing that line removes the conflict that's in section 2.3E, which allows for multiple principal structures without a PUD in the C1, C2, and I districts.
And so that's just been an existing conflict?
I guess so.
So are we suggesting changing it?
I was just making sure that we weren't striking what was accurate. A principal a building or structure which contains one or more principal uses of the lot of which said building and the structure is located. Each lot shall contain only one principal structure unless configured as a planned unit development. And so that's in conflict with what is currently allowed in districts that are not named here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are my
Anything
three
else?
questions. No.
Matt, anything, or Trevor,
And I guess John's online if he has
Yeah.
anything.
Sarah, anything?
No, I think I'm okay.
John, you have anything?
Not particularly. I haven't had time to dive deep personally.
Well, it'll come before the council if anybody.
Yeah.
has other
I do
things.
have just one thing that we talked about before, and it's section 411. Do I have
What
that
page,
right?
Mike?
I just had it.
It's 23.
I think it's page 23.
Okay, thank you.
Page 23. So, I'm gonna bring this up again. We talk about utility transformers, and in new residential developments where you have underground utilities, the developer puts the roads and streets in, the utility company comes in and puts the power transformers on the corner of the lot near the street. So here it says that has to be behind the house. And I'm just wondering if we should just remove, we talked about, electric meters and whatnot be hidden, but the transformers in a new project, I mean, it's the utility company that puts them in, and they're not gonna put them in the back of a lot.
It also says above ground utility structures associated with underground utilities may be allowed in front of a building if no alternative location exists.
I guess I missed that. Where is that?
That's under, G1 last sentence on page 24.
G,
D.
D,
D1.
D1. Okay, never mind then. You covered it. Thank you. All right, so if there's nothing else on these, do I have a motion to,
One statement.
sorry.
Sorry. So C versus D, it is 3 dwelling units versus 2 dwelling units. And the same text that we just talked about, if no alternative location exists, is mentioned in C1, but it says, however, the equipment must be enclosed with a vegetative buffer. So that's for 3 dwelling units, and we don't want to do that for 2 dwelling units?
It's a question for you.
Yeah, I mean, we could just copy the text over
Yeah.
for consistency's sake at least.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
That's a good try.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, would someone like to make a motion to forward these changes as amended tonight to the city council
I
for
will,
their
I will
consideration?
make a motion.
What's that?
You have to close the
close it.
hearing.
Oh, I have to
Okay.
close the hearing.
Good point. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing? Matt? And I think Trevor seconded it. All in
I
favor?
don't know if I can.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so now, can I get a motion to forward these changes with the edits tonight to the city council for their consideration?
I make a motion to forward these edits to the city council for
Okay,
their
motion
consideration.
Motion by Sarah, is there a second? Abby seconds it. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay.
I haven't had the time to look deeply, so.
Okay, that's fine. John abstains. So, we're gonna move them forward to the city council, and it's up to you guys to schedule a public hearing, right? Yeah. Perfect. Do you have anything, any mayor's items?
You know, we went past the time where we're gonna get them all, but what I will say is, remember the Green Up Day is May 2nd.
Yeah.
You can go to the Winooski Senior Center to pick up bags from 8:30 to 12, and then later at Memorial Park, there's gonna be a Memorial Park cleanup, as well as a guided tour of Memorial Park.
Memorial Park is the one down off the
Yes,
Elm Street. Okay.
you enter from Elm Street,
Yeah.
and that will be from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. on May 2nd.
Great. Anything you wanna say, Bryn?
I was just gonna cover green update, but the mayor got it.
And Revy, anything from staff?
The only thing I'll say is I now have a little bit more bandwidth to go back to the comp plan, so there's more to come with public engagement that'll happen during the summer.
Okay.
I do remember one thing, so city council is gonna be having a special meeting on Monday, the 27th, to discuss some items related to commissions. So it'll be here, City Hall, it's a public meeting, so anyone's welcome. The agenda and related materials will be posted tomorrow.
Great, thank you. Any commission items? Nope. John, nothing?
I have one small thing. I think there's been a lot of talk about Revy and some of the misses with 12 Forest Street, or 12 Franklin Street. I just want to say I don't think it's a Revy issue. I think you're doing a great job with a lot of this. And it's more of just making sure the process and everything works. I just wanted to say that out loud. You know, there's been a lot of beating up on 12 Franklin, but I think a lot of it's actually working through the things we're working through and just making sure there is coverage and the support you need to make things the right way. So I just wanted to say that out loud to everyone.
Great. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, then do I have a motion to adjourn? See, no one wants to leave. It's been such an exciting
So
meeting.
moved.
No one wants to move. Trevor, did you make the motion to move?
No, I'm having a great time. I'll stay.
I know. So I think Trevor made the motion and I heard Matt second it.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
I
Opposed?
will allow
Thank
that
you,
to
everyone. Eli, thank you. Thank you. I forget your name. Dylan. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, thank you. Revy, as always, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.